Okay, hang on. Let me make sure that we are actually recording. There we go. There's the timer. Okay, looks like we're recording, and I am super excited to have on the program Chris Hines. I know a lot of people are going to know Chris Hines, but if you don't, he's sort of ubiquitous in the animal rights movement. He's been an investigator, he's been a filmmaker. I mean, he's all these things. He hasn't just been them, he is this. And, he's just done it all. And so if you watch a lot of animal rights content, like on YouTube or Instagram or something, there's a good chance that even without even knowing it, you've come across Chris's work. So it's really exciting to have you here. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have a chat. I haven't done a podcast in a while, so this should be
Oh,
fun.
good. Oh, good. Well, interestingly, I know you know this because you were there present. We were doing a live stream at one point. We were reacting to your content. And one of the things we reacted to was your BBC interview, which you told me at the time was like the first media interview you had done. And I thought
Yeah,
you knocked it out of the park. And you're on the BBC TV. That was impressive. So I
that
know that
was
you can.
super scary. Because
Was it scary?
well, the thing is, I was sat in a room like literally full of people, so you can see in the background there's all people on their
Right.
computers and everything. And I was just set up in front of a camera. I could not see the person I'm talking to at all. I just had an earpiece in, and that was it. And then they kind of said, "Oh, we're going to connect you." So I said, "Okay," and I waited for the guy to connect, kind of thing. And then I thought there was going to be a little bit of a run through, like did they want to test my audio and that kind of stuff. And I was like, "Oh, did you want to?" Tell me what you're doing and everything. And he's like, no, we're just going to go straight into it. Like quite angry. You saw how angry he was in the interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he was already fired up from the second he connected to me. So I basically went from 0 to 100 straight
Yeah.
away. I wasn't kind of prepared for him to kind of go in like straight away. I was kind of thinking there'll be a bit more of a warm up before I spoke to him.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I did all right considering
You
the
did.
pressure.
In retrospect, that may have been best because, had you had all this buildup, it's just more time for you to get nervous, I suppose.
Sure, sure.
So to give people context, so you were the spokesperson for the Meet the Victims UK, and there were
Yeah.
several big actions, and Meet the Victims had gone onto this farm with hundreds of activists, and then the BBC wanted to talk to you about that. So I've got a question for you, Chris. First of
Okay.
all, how dare you? Because as that interviewer said on there, you chose the best. You went to the best, a red tractor farm. So why did you do that, Chris? Because that's just rude, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, as I explained to him, I mean that the whole point of doing this was to just expose the general farming. We wanted to show just the reality of normal farming, not like an investigation case that people are going to go, oh, well, they found that because it was the worst of the worst or anything like that. We just wanted to find a farm that could just be like, well, this is the average farm that you are all buying from. It is the standard. And that is why it was so powerful, because even in the as you know, even in the most standard farms, it's still full of so many animal rights abuses in there, and that's exactly what we found. The interview was quite funny because if anyone who watches it will see the absolute bias of the reporters in the
Yeah.
fact that they were all nice to her, but as soon as it came to me, it was like aggression. No one questioned her about the fact that why did you have dead baby piglets in a muck pile around the back? And there's footage of you, carrying a piglet by their back leg and all this kind of stuff. None of that was questioned. Why are you keeping mother pigs in farrowing crates? None of this. But yeah, obviously, they're always going to put us as the extremist, aren't they? So.
Well, as we learned in that interview, it's the activists' fault that there were dead piglets on the farm because
Of course, yeah,
they,
it was definitely us. Even though we've got like 100 live streams to prove that it wasn't, it was definitely us. Yeah.
So, did you expect? Because as I was explaining in my live stream, and as some of my viewers will know, like my background's with NPR, I have a pretty high regard, or used to, for NPR, BBC, which kind of work together, and so I would have expected better from them. And what did you expect hostility when you got on the BBC, or was it surprising to you?
No, that was actually surprising. Although I must say, I did a few interviews for the BBC. That was the only TV one. I did a few
Oh,
radio as well, and some of the radio presenters were really nice, really
mm,
reasonable, really kind of let me put my case across, and we had a good kind of back and forth. It was mainly him. I think he's got a bit of a reputation for being a bit hard with things, so maybe that's maybe that's what I just should have expected. But yeah, I definitely thought it would be a bit more kind of balanced in that sense. But I don't know, it's the news, but maybe they just want to make good TV as well, I guess. So
Yeah, I wonder if there's like a difference between, because the BBC radio does seem to be fairly good for the most part, in my experience. So maybe there is that difference. Like maybe TV is more geared towards sensationalism and conflict. I really don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, realistically though, I mean, like he should have just remained neutral. I mean, that's what he should have done. Where he
Yeah,
did show a clear bias and a clear, he could have asked me those questions still, but not in a a
in the
really
way.
attacking way in the way he did. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he's at fault there. There definitely was some bias. It can't be denied.
By the way, I mean, one of the things when I watched that interview, I was really blown away just by the numbers. I mean, there's really only several examples in the States that I can point to, and some were like the actions that DXC has taken in the past. But I was just like, I was surprised to see hundreds of activists doing this demonstration. It seems like activism in the UK is really popping off, and but what can you tell me about the Meet the Victims and what you guys were there to do?
Sure. Well, just to kind of let you know, unfortunately, the Meet the Victims thing has kind of died out over here. I think there was maybe 4 in total, but I don't know. It is very difficult to get that amount of people together. I mean, luckily you've got groups like Animal Rising and people like that are still doing these kind of big actions with lots of people, which is great. But unfortunately, Meet the Victims kind of died out. But yeah, for people that aren't really familiar with the format, it's basically we enter a facility peacefully. It's basically a sit-in. Ultimately, we go in, sit in, live stream, show people exactly what's going on at the time we're in there, and the idea is to stay inside until the media come and we get coverage. Basically, so we were always like, look, we're willing to leave. We just want the media to come and see what's inside. That's basically our only demand. We don't want anything else. And generally, I mean, we've been quite successful with the media side of stuff. I mean, we were in kind of, things like the Daily Mail, newspaper wise. Obviously, we've got the BBC interviews, all that kind of stuff, and local news were coming down interviewing us. So definitely got a lot of exposure. And I think it's just a really powerful form of activism in the fact that because everyone is in there and they're live streaming as well. So you've got the media side, obviously pushing it out to more and more people. And because everyone's inside, everyone can tune in and see what is happening there and then. I mean, there's this thing that I see, even with things like Dominion or other things and stuff, where people go, well, oh, that was years ago, or that doesn't happen now, that doesn't, whatever. But when it's being live streamed, it can't be denied. It's like it's happening
Right.
there and then, and I think it just brings people into that world. It makes it a lot more real, and I think that's the power that kind of Meet the Victims has in that respect. And just also, that power of just kind of being like, we're all members of the public, and we just want to show people what's going on. We're
Right.
not doing
Right.
anything else. We're not here. We're not in here to break your equipment. We're not all like, going to go ALF on you and start, burning your phone down or anything. We literally just want to show people the reality so they can make an informed decision. And I think that's a reasonable thing for anyone to do, really.
Right. And when you have like an interview like you did on the BBC, I hope that people can see through that. I mean, I can see through it obviously because, I'm in the animal rights world in that space, but I hope that people can see that you are kind of being badgered and bullied by this interviewer, and like, and unfortunately he sort of represents this kind of like elite, that is ignoring this issue. And I mean, like,
Mm.
as you said, like they interviewed the owner of that farm, and they just like were completely like taking her at her word on everything, including the dead piglets, and just not even questioning at all. Like it's like they figured if I just ask the question, that'll be my job done. Like instead of like following up and like, really?
Yeah.
You think all these animal lovers are responsible for killing the piglets? That might have been my next question if I was asking, like, aren't these people animal lovers? Like, aren't you the one trying to make money off the animals?
No, our only crime is that one of the words on the back of the T-shirt was misspelled,
Oh yeah.
which was kind of awkward because we were kind of hoping like, oh, no, it's going to get shit on the media and everyone's going to read. I can't
Oh
remember which
no.
word it was now, but one of the words was misspelled, and I was kind of like, we're like, oh goddamn,
Dang.
why didn't we
Well, I
spot
didn't
that?
notice it. I didn't notice it. Maybe that's why the BBC was like snubbing their, looking down their nose at you.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your work with Joey Carbstrong, because I know like he's such a larger than life figure in our movement, and you've done so much work with him, including in some of his like great works that have come out recently, like Pignorant and Hogwood. So people who haven't seen those documentaries, first of all, like you should go watch those documentaries. They're great. And you had informed me that a lot of this footage had come from your work as well. So
Sure.
tell me a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Pignorant. I mean, I don't want to take credit for filming a lot of Pignorant because I definitely didn't. But there were certain scenes that me and Joey had filmed when we went on investigations to pig farms, and there's one particularly disturbing scene which we actually, Joey decided that he wanted to save back because it was that horrific. And what we'd done is set up a 360 camera essentially in one of the firing crates while this very heavily pregnant mother was giving birth. But the scene, have you seen Pignorant? Do you know? Do you
I
know the film?
have, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It's
you may
it's
remember.
been like a year though.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember that it's only a kind of short scene, but there was a scene with a mother pig giving birth. There's another piglet which is basically having a seizure over on the side, like shaking and everything. There's a dead piglet below where she's giving birth, and it was just showing these piglets just be born into this absolute hell. It was, this is their first moment of life, and they're being born on top of their dead brothers and sisters next
Yeah,
to another, brother or sister who's having a seizure, and it was just so like warped, and it was I don't even know how to describe it. I remember when we were there just witnessing it, and I was just like, what is this? This is like, if I could ever depict hell, this would be it. And then that was used within Pignorant. But yeah, me and Joey have been working together for quite a long time. I don't do as kind of much with him now. But when he was doing his I think it was Uncovered series, we went into loads of different farms and exposed things. That was generally me behind the camera there. We went into
mhm,
kind of like enriched cage egg farms, pig farms, dairy farms. I mean, once we found a dead dairy calf in a bin, literally
mhm,
just rotting. We've seen some pretty horrendous stuff over the time, and I've also helped Joey with some of his other documentaries. Like some people don't know about it. They think that Pignorance is kind of first documentary, but he did actually make some others for YouTube. So there's
mhm,
Milk Make Your Own Mind Up, which is about the dairy industry, obviously, and one which is very, very disturbing to watch, very hard to watch as well, called Violated, which is basically kind of about the sexual abuse
mhm.
within animal agriculture. Hogwood that you mentioned was actually Viva.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
they did an investigation into a farm which was called Hogwood, and there's some
gotcha.
footage of mine towards the end of that. But yeah, Joey's really, really great friend, such a amazing activist. Like, he is one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my
Mm,
life.
mhm.
I remember times we're working with him, and we'd go to sleep. He'd always go to sleep with this like really intense white noise, like so I could barely sleep. But then, like, I would wake up in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. and he was already up editing, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I was like, "You're a
Damn.
machine." I mean, he was, to be fair, he was on a lot of energy drinks at the time, and he has cut down on those now.
Yeah, okay.
But besides the energy drinks, the guy's just got natural energy, natural passion. He
Yeah.
genuinely cares so much, and yeah, I'm so proud of all the work he's done,
Mm.
and it's been a real kind of honor to be able to work with him. So much.
Yeah, that's very similar sounding to Wayne Shung, who I work with. Like also just a bundle of energy, and it similarly goes to sleep with that white noise thing. I
Oh,
wonder,
really?
yeah, I wonder if that's part of this. Maybe we should all be doing that. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what
maybe
gives
that's what
you
we're
the
missing out on.
energy.
Gives you the
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
I mean, I would, like when I was like living with Wayne, I would like wake up with a lot more kick in my step. I have to admit,
Mm,
partly just because I know if you like spending time with Joey and stuff that you are inspired by the people around you who are like constantly on the ball. But I'm not surprised to hear that about Joey. I've never talked to Joey personally, but you can just see in the amount of work that comes out that there's just a ton of energy and passion behind it, because you can't just be cranking out that amount of work. How did you
oh, yeah.
guys get to know each other, if you don't mind me asking?
So I think we met at the I think we met at Vegan Camp Out back in like
Mm,
2016 or something like that. I think
mm,
that was the first time, and he was kind of a friend of a friend.
mm.
So I kind of briefly met him there, and then I was living down in the southwest of England in Devon at the time, and running the Devon Animal Save group. And we my friend also lived down there who knew Joey, so we actually got Joey down to do some outreach with us and do a talk at the local vegan cafe and stuff. And I kind of got to know him a bit more then. And I think, yeah, I don't really know kind of how it happened. I think we just got on. We just clicked, and
Mm.
he knew that I was a passionate activist, and um, I was also going out and doing investigation work and stuff. Like some of the places that we've been to were places that I kind of knew already. So I
Mm.
kind of took him instead of him taking me. Like there was I don't know if you've ever seen his video where the most transparent slaughterhouse in the world.
Yep, I did. I did.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was somewhere I actually took him, very spur of the moment. There's actually quite a cool story about that place, actually, if you want to know. So
Yeah, I do.
basically, there was this very small slaughterhouse in Cornwall in the UK that basically put in the local newspaper about they want to be this transparent slaughterhouse. They want people to know that the animals are well cared for. If anyone would ever want a tour, they can gladly come in and they'll show them around and show them what happens to the animals. So obviously we took advantage as animal rights activists and went, hey, yeah, we'd love a tour. Obviously didn't tell
Mhm.
her who we were. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just all rocked up to the slaughterhouse, and yeah, she was extremely transparent. She literally showed us everything. I mean, except for the slaughter, because there was no animals being slaughtered that day. But she took us in, showed
Oh,
us the bolt guns, showed us the freezers with all the corpses in everything, showed us the CCTV with all the slaughter footage on, like literally everything. Um, and by the end of it, she was kind of saying, "Oh, do you guys have any more questions before we finish up?" So I kind of went, well, I feel you've been very honest with us. So I kind of feel that we should be honest with you as well. And I went, we're all animal rights activists. And you could see her kind of heart sunk for a second. And she was like, oh. And I was like, no, don't worry. We're not here to attack you or anything like that. I said, we just wanted to get an actual honest opinion from you. So you actually didn't hide anything or anything like that, which you did.
mhm.
And strangely, we ended up going to the pub with her for about 2 hours
Huh.
and was talking about our side of the story and her as well, like telling her about veganism, all this kind of stuff. And it was very interesting because it was almost like the first time she had ever thought about all this stuff. Because we were like, well,
Wow.
why do you do this? He's like, well, I love animals. I don't like the big industrial slaughterhouses. So I wanted to do it myself to take care of them. I'm like, yeah, but you don't need to do this, do you? And she's like, well, of course we do. Like, people eat animals. We need to do it. I was like, yeah, but we're all vegan. We don't eat animals. Like, it's completely not necessary. And it was like she'd almost never had that thought of like it
Huh.
isn't, because she was brought up in a farming background, so it's always been embedded into her. Like, we need to do this. And we built this kind of strange, I guess you can call it like a strange friendship. Like,
Huh.
I could just rock up and just be like, hey, how's it going? And she'd be like, offer me a cup of tea and everything. And like, she was really nice with her. I had her on Facebook and everything. And then when Joey came down, we went to do a slaughterhouse vigil quite nearby. And then as we were kind of driving through, I was like, slaughterhouse, we should go visit. And we just rocked up to the slaughterhouse with Joey. And I said, oh, I've got my friend Joey here. He's a big animal rights activist. Love to have a tour. Could you give him a tour? And she was like, yeah, no worries. Like, absolutely
Oh, yeah?
fine. Like, her mum and dad were there and everything. Like, yeah, no worries. Like, come round. Yeah, we'll show you everything. And that's why she gave the whole transparent tour to Joey, which
Wow.
was just insane. But a
Yeah.
crazy thing that happened later, which I found out. So the slaughterhouse actually closed down due
Mm,
to, not because of animal rights activism or anything like that. They were meant to install some other, basically some new legislation came in. It involved a lot of changes in there. They couldn't afford it, and it was just not
mm,
financially viable when they closed down. But she rung me like months and months later, firstly wanting to tell me that she's like, "Oh, Chris, you'll be so proud. Like, I've really cut down on my meat intake." And I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And she said, "Yeah,
mm.
we now we just get one lamb and we eat that one lamb for the month." And I said to her, I said, "Look, I appreciate what you're trying to tell me, but I'm never going to be impressed with this."
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Oh yeah, okay, fair enough." I was like, "Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing that you're doing. Like, I appreciate what you're trying to say, but it's not going to work."
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
she told me that she had kind of been blacklisted by the industry. She was trying to get other jobs in other farming things, but because she had worked with activists,
Mm.
no one would touch her. So she ended up kind of not being able to work in that kind of area anymore, from what I know. And I
Yeah.
kind of lost contact with her kind of since, but something obviously sunk in with her, for her
Interesting.
to even want to even reduce. I mean, we're talking about a slaughterhouse owner, not a worker. So
Mhm.
she owned the slaughterhouse.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it was just a real kind of interesting thing. And I think, just that kind of getting to know me and me kind of not attacking her, but almost kind of trying to be friendly with her kind of worked in a strange way. I'd love to know what she's doing now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. I'm not that surprised because like to have this concept, like you have a slaughterhouse where, we're trying to do things like, you know, I, so for instance, like, well, anyway, I'm going to put the link to this video down below so people should watch this. But from what I remember of this video, it's very chilling, honestly, because it's
Mm,
like Joey going through, she's showing him the animals getting slaughtered, and basically she's saying like there's even grim stuff like where the
mm,
animals are thrashing around and she's saying, oh look, this is muscle reaction, which is true. Sometimes after an animal is killed, there's muscle spasms that are happening,
mm.
but so they're not always like consciously thrashing around, but sometimes they are. And yeah, it's really grim because she's pointing out things in that video that are really standard in slaughterhouses, like for instance animals seeing their friends or the animal before them being killed right in front of them, and she's like, no, look, in ours, they don't see anything, like, but of course the animal has a sense what's happening. They can smell blood, they can do all these, it's
Yeah.
just, it's really macabre. And Joey did a great job, and I think Joey's approach also was quite compassionate towards this woman. So it was yeah, like you said, it was like a very not in your face, but let's just show people like that this is the best, just like with the red tractor, this is the best it can be. And I think Joey did kind of press her a little bit at the end, like,
Yeah,
let's
no,
go
he
vegan.
no, he definitely did. He definitely put a bit of pressure on, but yeah, in just a good way. And I think, and she responded to it, as she did. She was always so honest and so open.
Yeah.
Like I said, showing us, all the CTV and just everything. It was just a very, very unique. Like, you don't hear of many slaughterhouses, especially in the UK, that are ever even let you near the door. Never mind, kind of
Right.
give you the full tour. So yeah, very, very unique experience. And actually, it was also very eye opening to me in another sense as well, because and this might sound weird to people, but like getting to know her, it was kind of, I guess how to say, it was almost like, I can't hate you. It was weird. It was like I detest what you do. I utterly detest what you do, but I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're just as brainwashed as everyone else is.
Hmm.
And it kind of made me think, it's not just the public that have been brainwashed into thinking this is all normal and necessary. It's also the people within the industry. She's been brought up in a farming community, all that kind of stuff. She thinks it's necessary. She genuinely thinks she's doing the best for the animals. She even tried to help us save a pig from the slaughterhouse. There was a pig there the first time we went, and we were like, can we please take them? Can we please take them? And she tried everything she could to try and allow us to take them. But because it was all recorded, the pig was on site. Apparently, DEFRA guidelines said that once an animal is on the premises of a slaughterhouse in the UK or something, they cannot be removed due to biosecurity. And that was literally the only thing. And apparently she rung DEFRA and found all this out for me and everything. But the
Wow.
fact she actively even tried to like get us,
Mhm.
to get us to rehome this pig was like pretty amazing. So it was just just a very, very unique kind of look into the psyche of someone who runs a slaughterhouse, and how, like I said, how they're
Yeah.
just as brainwashed as the rest of them.
Yeah, yeah, I know that. I mean, I can I mean, because even as a meat eater from the public back in my day, I know that I was someone who cared about animals, and I just had not was not giving it any thought.
Yeah, same.
Um, yeah. What about, was there anything specific about that particular pig, or was it just that you like, "Oh, well, look, we can save a pig right now," or was that pig suffering in a
No, no,
certain
no. She was being as nice to that pig as she possibly could. That was the only pig there. It was
way?
just one pig. That was the only
Oh,
pig in the lairage when we were there. There were no other animals due for slaughter.
hmm.
Because it was a very, very small slaughterhouse, so it was very
Yeah.
kind of minimum animals. So yeah, it was just the one pig. And when we went there, she said, "Oh yeah, you can go in and see him," and she opened the door and let him kind of walk around in the kind of courtyard and everything. So we were there, giving him rubs and everything, just as if it was like a pet or something. It was,
Mm.
she was like so kind of like, just being so normal kind of
Right,
thing,
right.
which made it kind of weirder, you know.
Which this is also informative just to show that like a place that was trying to do it, quote unquote, I know there's no right way, but the
Yeah,
right way
right.
could not stay open because they couldn't afford to. And I assume that partly that is because some of the practices that they were doing were potentially slowing the process, like making it not as financially viable. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know. I'm guessing.
she'd be slaughtering less animals for sure, because I mean, she can't
Hmm.
pump them through like other places. It was, it was a few a day, and I guess if you're not getting the numbers, then it's not paying the bills, is it? So,
Right.
um, but yeah, there was something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was something that came in which meant they'd have to pay out quite a lot, and they just obviously couldn't afford it, and that was the kind of the end of it. But yeah, super interesting trip to
Mm.
that place. Yeah, I don't know whether I'm ever going to find another slaughterhouse like that, but yeah, really interesting place.
How did you start to get into like doing investigations work? Because it seems like some of the most like intense, hard, uh, some of the most brutal work, obviously some of the most important work in the animal rights movement.
So I guess kind of like when I first started just doing activism, my first bit of activism I did was actually go to a slaughterhouse vigil.
Mhm.
Someone on the local kind of vegan group, the Save movement had just started at that time, or just kind of started in the UK anyway. And he kind of put up a message saying, "Oh, would anyone be interested in doing this?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine." So a few of us met up in a kind of a local cafe and had a chat about it, and then organised to go and do one. So we kind of started straight in, at the slaughterhouse, outside the slaughterhouse, seeing the animals. And then a few of us from the group decided, we found there was another slaughterhouse nearby, and we wanted to go and check it out, for a potential vigil and stuff. So we decided we'll go there in the middle of the night, and we climbed over a fence and snooped around. We didn't
Mm,
really find much. We found some kind of guts in a bin, but there was no
mm,
animals there or anything like that. And I don't know. I guess kind of being able to go to a slaughterhouse in the middle of the night kind of made me feel like, oh, okay, I could do that. But I think that the biggest kind of catalyst that made me kind of want to do it more was actually the film. Hope I get the name of this right. The Ghosts in Our Machine, which is
mm.
Joanne MacArthur from We Animal.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
right, right.
yeah, I hope that title's right. But basically, it's all about following her journey as a photojournalist, going into these places and documenting and everything. And at the time, I was very into photography, very into videography, and it was kind of like I I could do that. Like that's something I could do.
Mm,
I've got cameras. I know how to film. I know how to edit. I know how to take pictures. And I think that kind of just inspired me to be like, yeah, actually, I want to go and find out a bit more. And then so me and some friends basically just used to look on Google Maps and just scan
mm,
around and just find a random farm and go in the middle of the night basically,
mm,
and see what we could find. And every single time we went there, it was always terrible. Like every time. Like I don't think
mm.
I've been to one that hasn't been. There's always been something.
Right.
Um, And yeah, and I just kept going, kept doing it and doing it, kept documenting and everything. And I guess like it's not something that everyone can do, but for some reason I seem to be able to. Well, I can and I can't like handle the trauma of going to these
Hmm.
things. Obviously, you see some very very disturbing things, and I can't say it hasn't affected me. I can say that I'm the kind of person that can go and I can come home and I can be okay, but in the same way, I definitely do have trauma from it. If I talk about things, sometimes I can get very, very. It can make me very, very emotional. I've had to stop um, eating with my family if they're eating animal products now, kind of like what the Liberation Pledge was.
Hmm.
But mainly because of I'm just like I do not want to be thinking about this when I'm sat with my family anymore. If I see a bit of
Hmm.
meat, all I'm thinking is what I saw in a farm.
Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely affected me. But yeah, I just kind of felt that and there aren't that many people out there doing it, unfortunately, because it is so difficult. Like, and I understand, like, it's not somewhere you want to go, you want to see, but for some reason, I can switch off and I can go into work mode while I'm
Hmm.
there and get the job done and film and take photos and come back and deal with it when I'm home, where
Yeah.
other people couldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of the first kind of farm I went into was a just a very very small pig farm, and I mean, I definitely learned we shouldn't have done this now, but we
Mm.
actually walked on top of the slurry pit
Oh,
because it was I didn't really realize what it was, but basically it was loads of obviously shit, and they put
yeah.
all straw and everything on top, and it was quite deep. And because it was had straw and everything on top, we thought it was quite solid. So we literally walked across it to get to a
Wow.
window. And then a friend of ours, hopped through the window, went in, unlocked from the other side, kind of thing. But yeah, I've heard some horror stories about people falling into the, the pit stuff. So,
Yeah.
but obviously, I didn't know what that was when we went.
Yeah, you could have
Um,
drowned in that stuff because I think it's such thick muscus that you could probably get caught in
yeah,
like in quicksand basically. And
yeah, I was just lucky that it was obviously fairly thick, and the straw or whatever had kind of, kind of made, strengthened it. But yeah, so we managed to get in there. And it was just your typical pig farm, just concrete pens with a chain hanging from the ceiling for the
mm,
only enrichment. But I remember the second time we went there, we were actually stood just out the back and just about to go in, really, and security light come on, and we were kind of like, oh god, right, kind of thing. We didn't. There wasn't a security light last time we went on, um, and then when we looked around, we noticed all the bins literally that we were right next to. We didn't even, I don't know how we didn't clock it. The bins were full of full grown dead pigs with foam
mm.
coming out of their mouths. Like
Oh,
literally, it was disgusting. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. Like these huge, so I don't know whether there was like some infection that happened in there and they'd had to cull or something. But yeah, I just couldn't believe it. We just literally stood, literally, surrounded by these bins and didn't even clock it until the security light came on. So that was pretty shocking. And then obviously from there, like I said, it was just find places on the map, go check them out, see what we can find, and just kind of try and just help expose basically. And then I ended up working with Joey and so on, really.
yeah. So it sounds like you've been on a ton of facilities. What's the best that you've seen?
The best.
Taking away this slaughterhouse that we talked about. What's the best?
Oh, how would you how are you with defining best?
Yeah, good question. The least like okay, so
Are
maybe
you talking about clean, or are you just talking about
yeah,
the um,
cleanliness. Did you find animals there, dead animals there, that sort of things? Could I'm what kind of what I want. And the reason I'm asking this is because I remember posting a clip. It's actually of Dane Evans actually talking about the first farm that he went on to and finding all these dead babies. And he says in the clip, he's like, all you need to go is drive 20 minutes this way, that way. You'll find a facility with dead babies. And I remember people in my comments like, oh, he said there's dead babies. Like, this guy's full of shit. Well, I'm just trying to know myself, is that a rare occurrence? Because I know I understand that it's probably not a rare occurrence.
no, pig farms pretty much guaranteed. I don't think I've ever, obviously, unless they're all full grown, and I
Mhm.
have seen dead full-grown pigs, as I just explained.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, have I ever been to a pig farm with no dead pigs? That would be an interesting thought. No, I
No.
don't think I've ever been to one. Same with chickens as well. I don't think I've never been to a chicken farm without seeing dead chickens either. Dairy farms, like I said, I've found dairy calf like dead in a bin before. So definitely seen dairy calves there. I've seen, I could tell you the story of this if you wanted the dairy mothers, which weren't, actually, no, that might be an interesting one to talk about, actually, because you're talking about kind of farms that appear to be the best. Okay, so what? Yeah, I don't want to go into too many details about this. It's on Hogwood. If people want to watch it, you can go watch Hogwood. But essentially, there was a farm where if you went into the farm, you would see little calves wearing coats and everything, like all wrapped up, all looking really nice, everything. You would think that this is like, so well kept, this farm. But yet out the back, past the milking parlor, there was two Downer dairy mums. Both had their back legs chained together with hobbles, which generally they need if their back legs kind of, they kind of just had enough and they can't stand up, so they basically chain their legs together so they can stand. Skin and bones. One of them, unfortunately, was just lying on the floor, kind of convulsing, and she had her eyes rolling back in her head. She had blood coming out of her rear end. And we were super worried about her, super worried about her. We're like, what is going on? She was literally on a concrete floor. They'd put down this tiny sheet for her. Like, it was just like laughable. And there was no farmhouse on site either. So there's no farmer anywhere to be seen anywhere on there. No one's checking on them. We basically ended up convincing a farm vet to come out at 3 a.m. to euthanize her, which was horrendous. He did not want to come out at all. Absolutely, was trying to get out of it every way he could. He actually had to ring the police to get permission, because he was like, well, where's the farmer? I don't know, or who are you guys, investigators? Kind of. Okay. Yeah, and he kept being like, oh, we can wait till the morning. Maybe we should wait till the farmer. And we're like, no, she is suffering. Like, we cannot leave her like this until the morning. Like, that is just atrocious to even think about doing that. So yeah, on this farm, which has their own ice cream company, and they've got little calves in little coats and everything, which I'm sure they display, all the time on their social media. And like, look at our little calf,
bringing
out the back.
School kids in, I'm sure.
Yeah, out the back, hidden away from everyone. You've got the dairy mums that have had enough, with their legs chained up, convulsing, dying on the floor, that we had to go out and euthanize because she was in such a bad state. And the other one, the other mother that were there, she didn't get put down, but we did go back and check a few days later, and she wasn't there. So we think she would have gone to slaughter. But yeah, I mean, so even farms that kind of may look, pristine and stuff from a first glance, it only takes a bit of a closer look around and everything, and you see the reality. Or even if like we all know, anyone who knows about the dairy industry, even in the most pristine dairy farm you could ever think of, still forcing cows into pregnancy, still taking their calves away from them. They're still all going to slaughter. Like, just because you can't see the violations when you show up, it doesn't mean they're not happening. I think that's something people should definitely bear in mind.
Right.
Just because you see something and it seems okay, it doesn't mean that it's okay in any way.
Right. I mean, yeah, you may be seeing what the farmer wants you to see and not seeing what they don't want you to see, obviously. Exactly. And and it could be just like timing too. Like, I mean, things could look pristine on a farm in one moment, and then the next moment, like, you leave, and then someone's writhing around on the ground with foam coming out of their mouth because they're having a seizure or something horrible is happening. So yeah, it could just be timing as well. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, thank you for the work that you're doing, because like you mentioned, a lot of people, I think, can't do that. And yeah, it does give me like a great amount of respect for people who can. You mentioned Joanne MacArthur too. And yeah, I'm also really moved by her work as well. She does We Animals. You guys should check that out if you haven't seen that. That's a social media page and also a website, I believe. And yeah, actually, Joanne, I was able, like, that's one of the things that, like, in the orbit that I exist in now. Like some of the people that I'm able to meet are people like Joanne, and like that was really exciting to meet Joanne MacArthur. We all like went as a group to see a movie together, and I was like, at that moment I was thinking, I'm like watching a movie right now with Joanne MacArthur. Like how cool did my life become all of a
Yeah, I
sudden?
really want to meet her because I haven't met her, and
Oh
obviously,
yeah, you'll love her. She's so great.
yeah, she's definitely she definitely was a big inspiration kind of thing. That
Yeah.
film definitely
Does
definitely
she know
changed.
that? Does she know that?
I think I mentioned it in a because we also wrote a chapter for a book. So there was a
Yeah.
kind of a book which kind of a compilation of lots of different kind of vegan activists from all across the spectrum. And yeah, so she had a chapter and I had a chapter, and I think I put in a DM or something like about kind of like, oh, I'm really happy that I'm in the same book as her kind of thing. That's almost like
Oh
an
yeah,
honor in itself.
yeah, yeah.
We're kind of included like that. But yeah, I'd actually love to meet her kind of personally and kind of thank her for the work she does, because I think she's incredible.
Yeah, I think I own that book that you're talking about that you're in, and I think it's been loaned out. I think someone has it, like a
Is
family
it the
member or
Vegan
somebody.
Voices? The
Yeah,
Vegan Voices
I'm pretty
one, yeah.
sure. I think Wayne's in that. I think Ingrid, like a lot of like big names in that in the animal rights world are in that book. And yeah, Joanne MacArthur, and yeah, and I think didn't the guy who made Earthlings is also in there, I believe, as well.
Cool. Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
remember.
pretty
But
sure.
if we're talking about the book, I do need to give a shout out to Joanne Kong, who is the author of the
Oh
book.
yeah, yeah.
She's incredible, and she's also a classical musician
Wow.
who features on the film, which we'll probably talk about in a moment anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, Joanne's amazing, and I always need to pick her up. So yeah, Joanne, if you're watching, I love you. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
everyone go and support
I
you.
hope so. I hope so. Yeah. So that's a good segue though, because I know your background is basically music. You mentioned to me, I didn't know this about you, but you mentioned before our interview that you ran like a music magazine, you ran a band. You've
Yeah.
told me the song that made you go vegan, and I saw on your channel that you did a cover of it. And so let's talk about all that. But I'll just say, like, one of the reasons why we're talking is I had mentioned Dane Evans. And I think that you and I just became like a little more aware of each other because I did an interview with Vegan Gaze, and she had mentioned going to see To the Grave.
Yeah.
And she had done To the Grave stream with you where you guys reviewed the latest album. And I already knew who you were, but then I was like, oh, this is the music guy. And yeah, yeah. And
You could probably
as
tell
you
by the way I was talking about the album, it was more like music reviewer than just.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And now I think you've seen like in our interactions behind the scenes that I also am quite fascinated by like the intersection between animal rights and music. So yeah, let's talk about your origin story of how like you went vegan from hearing this song, because that's pretty fascinating. I've not heard that from very many people, that a song turned them vegan.
Sure, yeah. So it was basically back in 2002. So I was really into the kind of ska punk scene, kind of back at the time, and a band that was particularly big in that scene was Goldfinger, which I was a huge fan of, and they released an album called Open Your Eyes, and the song Open Your Eyes is actually an animal rights song. There's also another song on there called Fuck Ted Nugent, calling him out for his hunting, calling Jennifer Lopez out for wearing mink eyelashes, all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
But
nice.
there was like a bonus video on, remember back in the day with CDs, you put it in, you get the bonus features.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Right.
there was a bonus song on there called Free Me, and the video to Free Me was basically, factory farm footage, laboratories, all this kind of stuff. And that, those visuals with the lyrics of that song just changed me. Like the song is sung from the perspective of an animal, basically asking kind of, what have I done? Like, please
Mm,
let me go, kind of thing. And that with the visuals, just at the end of it, I was kind of like, I'm done. I went vegetarian back then. So
mhm, mhm.
um it was like instant, literally from one watch. I was like, I can't support this anymore. No.
Right.
Vegetarian was all I knew. I didn't even know what a vegan was back then. It was just like, okay. So
Well, real quick, do you think that part of that was because you looked up to these guys as musicians as well?
oh, 100%. Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're one of my favorite bands. I've been to see
Mhm.
them like multiple times. I'd actually met the singer, John Feldman, before I'd even done this as well. I actually remember, what was it? Yeah, so I actually remember the first time I met him. It was the band, the Bloodhound Gang, were playing.
Oh
Actually,
yeah, I remember them. Yeah.
yeah, no, it was actually on my birthday, which was like perfect
Nice.
timing. So I was like, right, I'm going to go see the Bloodhound Gang for my birthday. And then I remember buying Kerrang magazine. I don't know if you have Kerrang in the US. It's like a rock magazine in the UK.
I don't
And it
remember.
said support was from Goldfinger, and I just remember just freaking out in a shop. I'm ringing my friend and being like, "Oh my god, Goldfinger supporting Bloodhound Gang! I can't believe it!" And
Nice.
back then they were tiny, so like we got to meet them and everything, and chat with John and everything. But
Yeah.
strangely, I actually got to meet John again after I'd gone vegetarian, Reading Festival, and he gave me some leaflets and signed them for me, and I stuck them on my wall, and they were essentially on my wall for the past 20 years. So,
Oh
well,
wow.
a long time. They've been stuck on my wall. What I only realized very recently, within the last couple of years, just to kind of backtrack, I actually ended up going vegan in 20, I'm trying to remember now. So it's been 10 years vegan. So what,
Mhm.
2015? Um, uh, so yeah, so I went vegan in 2015 as a kind of natural progression. I kind of became the militant vegetarian, and then my my partner at the time, we kind of spoke about vegan kind of thing, and it was actually our pet hamster. She really bonded with the hamster, and she was like, "I really want to do something nice for the hamster. Maybe we should go vegan." I was like, "Yeah, let's do it," kind of thing. So it
Mhm.
kind of naturally progressed, but that leaflet was actually a why vegan leaflet, and I never read it. So it was on my
Oh.
wall for like 15 years,
Oh
which is
wow.
I already thought I was doing everything. I thought like, oh yeah, I'm the vegetarian and
Dang.
being militant about it and standing up for the animals. Yeah, so it took all the way along to there. But and then the kind of interesting thing was once it, I kind of thought about kind of like the fact that it was music that started my journey into animal rights. I started noticing that a lot of other bands I was listening to back at the same time and everything
Mm,
as well were also singing animal rights songs, and I didn't even notice. Like there was a
right.
song by the Vandals called "Tastes Like Chicken" about not eating chicken. There's the song "Nailing Descartes to the Wall" by Propaganda, which is
Yeah. You
the most
sent me, and I like that band, by the way. Yeah.
it's amazing. I mean, the first line is "Stop consuming animals." I mean, it couldn't be
Mhm.
any more obvious. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and it started this kind of common thread, and I was like, oh my god, like yeah, this has come in feeding into this, and it must have been feeding into me for a long time. And even there was an album by the band No Effects called Liberal Animation, which I then
Mm.
realized was Animal Liberation reversed.
Oh, wow.
um,
Yeah.
and the front cover was actually a load of cows sat around a table eating a human.
Oh,
um,
wow.
Although strangely, the album's actually anti-vegetarian, anti-vegan,
Is it?
which is
What?
quite funny. So actually, I think I've got it right. Have I got it here? I've got my kind of vinyl collection right next to me. I'm just trying to see if I can.
Anti-vegan? What
Oh,
the
here it
hell?
is.
No
I've got
effects.
it.
I
I've
was
got it.
just about to. Oh, wow.
That one right there. So I had that as a
That's.
poster on my wall
Oh, yeah.
since I was since I
Dang.
was super young. But yeah, it was strangely yeah, later on down the line, Mike from NoFX actually realized that he was being an idiot, and did
Oh,
actually go vegan for a while, and actually did released a PETA animal rights compilation through his record label and stuff. Although
oh, that's cool.
I
He's
don't think
insane.
he's either now. But I think he's a bit more kind of on board with it, I guess. But
I see. I see.
yeah, so that kind of started the yeah, that's kind of how it all started anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, I had not really known until like several years back, like the deep ties between like punk music and animal rights. And I realized that this similarly, like some of the bands that I listened to as a kid, I was thrilled to learn were like, animal rightsy type bands. Well, like one, for instance, like that I really liked back in the day was AFI, and I know that they're like straight edge vegan for the
Yes.
most part. Davey Havoc, and unfortunately, they weren't like really explicitly singing about it in their lyrics, so I didn't pick up on that kind of as you were saying, because I would have been one of those real impressionable teenagers who would have picked up on that stuff because I go deep into a band if I really like them. And I wish I had discovered all these bands back
Oh
when I
god,
was a
me
kid.
too, me too. No,
Yeah.
like I remember a friend of mine used to listen to the band Earth Crisis back when I was like 18, 19, and I, obviously the vegan straight edge thing never really came to the UK as such, but I knew
Right,
the
right.
term straight edge. I was actually considered myself straight edge when I was younger, as well. And yeah, one of my friends, Jamie, was very much into Earth Crisis, and I never really got round to listening to them, which I really regret now because they're now one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
But obviously, Earth Crisis are the vegan animal rights band.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's like documentaries you can watch on YouTube that are basically describing like how if you're like vegan now, like I watched this one that was like if you're vegan now, there's a fairly good chance that Earth Crisis may have had something to do with it,
Yeah,
which is really interesting.
yeah, totally. Davey Havoc from AFI actually, he credits the Destroy the Machines album by Earth Crisis as
Oh, really?
basically made him vegan. Same with Andy Hurley from Fallout Boy. He was
Yeah.
influenced by that as well. Yeah, Earth Crisis were, yeah, I mean, they were talking about veganism at a time when no one was talking about veganism. I mean, we need to think back. This is early 90s. Everyone's still talking about vegetarianism back then. Veganism
Right, right.
was not, you know, I would say veganism's only really become mainstream probably from what, like 2010 onwards,
Yeah.
maybe, kind of, you know, as people like it being kind of accepted and everyone kind of knows about it. But kind of
Hmm.
back then, like, yeah, no one was talking about it. And obviously, you know, they got a lot of backlash for that, you know, speaking up about it at a time where, you know, people were just getting to grips with vegetarianism. And you
Yeah.
know, even Peter and stuff were still promoting vegetarianism back then. They didn't switch to really promoting veganism properly. Well, I mean, yeah, they were promoting veganism, but they kind of didn't make it their focus until I think about 2015, I believe.
Mm.
So, like, you know, we're talking like 15 years before even like the animal rights organizations are getting on it. The Earth Crisis are there preaching
Yeah.
animal liberation, vegan straight edge.
Well,
Amazing.
yeah, well, and also, I mean, I think that music also just like is a big reason why we had partly, you know, why we had people like joining the ALF and because it was like all these like punk kids who were like, you know, coming from that scene where they're like a lot of like punk kids had like, you know, no like very little money and nothing to lose like quote unquote, and so a lot of people who are just like, you know, like, look, I'm going to go save some animals because I think, you know, I'm someone who grew up like I have a more privileged background where it's like it was a bigger leap for me to get into like high risk activism and stuff because like I'm like, you know, I had to get over nerves and stuff like that. But for a lot of people, like they were out there, like, you know, getting into fights or whatever, and like they just come from like a harder background. So like,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then
yeah,
you're right about the ALF thing. I mean, like Earth Crisis basically, you know, sparked the kind of US kind of ALF kind of thing. You know, everyone kind of getting into that vegan straight edge scene, and then in the UK, you had bands like Conflict,
yeah,
Fucks the Pink Indians, which were all, you know, very much, well, even the bands themselves, you know, we're all, you know, hunt saboteurs or taking direct action, breaking into laboratories, all that kind of stuff. So it was very,
what's the second one? What was that?
what bands are Flux of Pink Indians
Oh,
and
okay,
Conflict.
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
I need a more thorough list from you. I want us to say, like, you sent me some of these bands, by the way. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
sent me,
sure.
yeah, you sent me Goldfinger, you sent me Propagandy, which I have that album.
Yeah, listen
Z-Man.
to some conflict. Always got to big up Conflict. I've become quite good friends with the lead vocalist Colin.
Oh, okay.
Amazing guy, done some incredible activism over the years. Really, really lucky to have him involved on the film. He doesn't
Yeah,
really do
yeah.
a lot of
Which we
kind
haven't
of
mentioned,
interviews.
by the way, that you're working on a animal
Oh yeah, we
rights
should probably actually
music
tell people
film.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But before that, let me just go through this little list here. The Z-Man and Tahaj. That album is incredible. Like this
Oh yeah,
album, Animal
please go pick
Slavery.
up. Please go pick up the vinyl. They just dropped the vinyl. Yeah,
Oh,
Z-Man
nice.
and
Yeah,
Tahaj the First,
Z-Man and
Animal
Tahaj. Like
Slavery.
that album. So we got personal. Oh yeah, Veganocracy, Band of Mercy. That
Oh,
album.
Band of Mercy are great. They're
Yeah.
a really great band.
Yeah. So anyway, and Feldy, like who I've been seeing because of you know a lot of the UK activists are
Yeah,
appearing in this videos and stuff. But Feldy's like this great rapper who's doing animal rights
love the
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Feldy's absolute legend. Love the guy. Big up Feldy. Much love
Yeah.
to you.
And you know
Yeah,
what?
he's doing some great work.
And I had seen his videos, but I got his EP after you sent it to me, and I was actually like, you know, this is like really well. well done. It's like well produced and everything. That album.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, check out his music, but his EP that he put out is really well produced.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to a lot of the vegans that are familiar with him as well is dive into his other stuff as well, because his non-animal rights stuff is also amazing.
Yes, it is.
So I mean,
Yeah.
his animal rights tracks are obviously, you know, really really good. But yeah, he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not just going the animal rights, which you know, I think he's going to work to his advantage, because he can draw people in with the other tracks that aren't into animal rights, and suddenly they'll discover the other tracks and stuff. So I think he's on a good path. So
Yeah, they're very deeply autobiographical in like a way that it's just like a very a narrative flow that is you know, it's not like vague. I feel like something about his like lyrics just really like are very clear about what he's talking about in a way that's not all rap music is, like kind of jumping from thing to thing. Yeah. But so yeah, let's talk about your film, because you've been working on this film, Taking Note, since 2016, which sounds like it's gonna be amazing.
I
And
hope
I
so.
can't wait for this.
So
So yeah,
I've had
tell me about that.
I've had so I've shown minimal people the film. So we have, just for people that have actually, I should explain about the film first. So the film is essentially about the history of animal rights and music. Like, as we explained, it was music that made me start my journey into animal rights, and eventually I became a vegan and an activist. And music's always had this innate power to provoke change. I mean, protest music has been a staple in the music world for many many years. Whether it's Rage Against the Machine or Green Day or with American Idiot or anything. There's so much protest music out there. Bob Dylan. So it kind of looks into the history of how animal rights and music have worked together throughout the years, going all the way up from basically the 1800s to modern day. And and what's kind of unique about this film, and why it's taken so long as well, in a big respect, is that what this film covers has never actually been documented. I've basically had to become the world expert in animal rights music to make this, because it doesn't exist except for on my Google Docs. This is years and years and years of puzzle pieces that I've been putting together to build and figure out this story. You can look online, and like we've been talking about the punk scene a lot. There's a lot of information on the punk scene out there already. Moby has actually got a film on vegan and punk, so you can always check that out if you want a bit of a kind of taster of kind of that scene. But it goes far deeper than that. That's just one part of such a bigger story, and I really can't wait for people to kind of see, because the people I have shown have been quite kind of blown away at kind of how big this is. Like I said, we're going back to the 1800s. If I asked someone, name an animal rights song from the 1800s, they'll be like, I ain't got a clue. Like,
Yeah, no.
lucky if they can name one from the 80s or like the 70s. So yeah, it's really really interesting, and the thing that's made me quite excited about it. So two people that have seen a rough copy actually was Mel and Steve. So they were around mine. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it, when we took my brother out to the farm, and I was talking about the film and everything, and I was just kind of like, do you know what? You just want to watch it. Screw it. Like I could, I've been holding on to this film for 8 years. I kind of just want someone to
stop holding out on me. Send me that film. All right, come on now.
maybe soon.
All right.
So I was kind of like, do you guys just want to watch it? I could do have some feedback. So chucked it on and everything. And just as some background, Mel and Steve are not music people. They won't mind if I say this. They're not people that are deep into music, massive music fans. Mel likes pop, like Busted and stuff. Steve kind of likes random things. I'm not really entirely sure Steve's kind of music taste entirely, but they're not like your typical music people. So most of the people on the film, they're going to never have heard of. They're going to be like, I don't know who these people are. So put it on and got to the end, and I looked over to kind of see, kind of ask, oh, what did you think? And Steve's there like this with his head in his hands, kind of sobbing. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And like Mel's got the kind of tears in eyes kind of thing. And Steve literally said to me, he said, Chris, that was the best animal rights film I have ever seen in my life.
Whoa.
And I was like, shit, okay, I've done something right there. And
Yeah.
they basically said that it was that I'd managed to get the get the animal rights message in there in such a powerful way, but in a way that was so like accessible. It's not a hard film to watch. It's not like you're watching Earthlings. It's all bands. It's like interviews with bands and everything. But within that, you're still going to see footage of slaughterhouses. You're still going to see footage of bullfighting. You're going to see footage of laboratories. Everything within it. But they said it was done in such a way that made it so interesting that it was just like it didn't even matter that they didn't know who half these musicians were, but it
Mhm.
built up to a point where it created the urgency and it of the cause, and it made people want to, it fired them up. It was like, we want to go and like break into
Mhm.
a farm right now or something.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so and obviously there's always going to be, I take, obviously I'm extremely grateful for the feedback they gave me, but I also take it with a little grain of salt, realizing that they are already vegan. They're going to
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
react to it in a different way to a lot of other people.
sure.
But it gave me a bit of hope to know that, that's still an extreme reaction for anyone to have to the
Yeah,
film. And if I can get that reaction from non-vegans, which is obviously the target audience, then hopefully we're onto a winner. And the good thing about the film is, like I said, what I wanted from the film is it to be basically the most accessible animal rights film that there is around. Most animal rights films are very, very difficult to watch when it comes to films about the ethics. It's
oh,
very
yeah.
heavy. It's hard to grip people. You can't get people to be like, oh, do you want to sit down and watch Dominion? Like, people are going to be like, hell no. But if I
Yeah.
can go, hey, do you want to watch a film about animal rights and music? It covers the history of animal rights and music over 200 years. It's got all these bands, loads of people you'll probably know in it. It's got people from Fall Out Boy. It's got
Mhm.
EDM DJs and hip hop artists and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't sound intimidating. That
Mhm.
sounds like, oh yeah, that sounds quite interesting. I could watch that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's even got people that my dad would know, in there, like, because it goes back so
Mhm.
much. So, and because it's every genre as well, like whether it's like someone who's into classical music or someone's into hip hop or someone's into like deathcore, like
Right.
I can pinpoint names that they're going to know and be
Yeah.
interested in. So yeah, I just need to get it finished now. I think it's 8 years is a hell of a long time to be making a project. So
Well, you're actually the second person in a row that I've interviewed, because my last interview was with Vegan Zombie, who's been making
oh yeah,
A44, which is the
yeah, yeah.
vegan zombie movie. So, and he's been working on that for 16 years, or at least had the idea for it for 16 years, and
Wow.
finally just getting it done. So, when you say like you're trying to, and you don't, I know you don't want to spoil much about the film, but when you say you're like almost done with the film, like you need to get it done, like, and you've shown someone a rough copy, you showed Mel and Steve a rough
Yeah.
copy, like what's left of the film that you still got
So
to do?
to be honest, it's mainly cleaning it up.
Mm.
Just at the moment, some of the footage in there is rough. We've got kind of like stock footage, which is kind of, we need to like properly license. It's got watermarks on it, all that kind of stuff. It
Oh, I
just
see.
needs polishing. Like the story is there. There's a few bits that just kind of need a little bit more molding, maybe change the narration. But yeah, it's literally the polish. Like, the
Gotcha.
film's there. It's watchable. Um, but it just needs it needs to basically go from a rough film to a Netflix film. That's
Mm.
the phase we're at, and that's kind of well, what I'm going to be working on next week. I'm going down to work with my editor for a week to
Mm.
kind of go through things, and then once we've kind of done that phase, then it'll be adding things like the animation, getting a composer to do some replace some of the music we've got in there temporarily, and then it will just be down to legal because we've got so much kind of archive footage, that music that we need to get permissions for and everything. So that'll be a fun part. But it's really not far off. I mean, the fact I can watch it is such a good feeling, because it's been
Yeah.
literally a horrendous, horrible 6 terabyte monster on a hard drive.
Yeah.
It's been haunting me for years, and
Yeah.
now the fact I can actually go, oh yeah, here it is, and if I see someone, I can be like, look, here's a scene. You can actually see it exists.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, like, I can't see it. I think realistically, it should be done kind of as far as editing is concerned this year. Well, how long the actual getting the release and the legal side of stuff takes, I don't know, but it should be. Yeah, I mean, it's only going to be down to me if it doesn't. It's just putting the work in and getting it done now.
And you mentioned that you want to take this from like a rough film to like a Netflix film, which makes me wonder, like, do you have like a distribution plan? Do you think it might end up on Netflix or something big like that where people can stream it?
So we don't have any kind of set deal currently, but
Mm.
the people we've spoken to have spoken very kind of well about it. Like we had a meeting with a guy who worked for the BBC, and he said we've got an extremely good chance purely because, well, one, veganism, animal rights is always a hot topic. People kind of like those things. Two, mine's completely unique. This film's never been made, and most films are happy if they get one or two celebrities. We've got over 100.
Yeah,
So
wow.
the fact that we've got
Right.
so many names involved, we've got people like Moby or, on the film, or people
Hmm.
that, and there's a lot of people that I could probably get to, help push it to those platforms. I
Hmm.
think we have a chance. I think that's what we're saying. It's more down to making sure that the quality is something that they're gonna want. So I think it's more to do with the quality than the content. I think the content actually they'd be quite interested in. But I
I
think
see.
Netflix or Amazon Prime. It will end up on. I think I can't see it going.
I really hope so, because I feel like a lot of these films, like, they get, like including Moby's film, and Moby released his on YouTube for free, and so anybody can watch it, which is wonderful. You have the accessibility, anybody can watch it, but the problem is that, like, who's going to find it? And that's where I'm like, Netflix, Amazon, everybody's scrolling on those things, and I'm just really hopeful that people will find, because I have this theory that had a film like Earthlings or Dominion ended up on Netflix, where, like, it's like where you've already paid for the service and you just can find it, we'd be in a much better position than where we are today. And I know that was a goal at one point, but I think the footage was just too brutal that they didn't take it.
Yeah,
Um,
strangely, I actually discovered fairly recently. I don't know if you've ever heard of a very early animal rights film called The Animals from like the early 80s.
I don't
Well,
think so.
apparently that was one of the first programs that ever got shown on Channel 4 in the UK. They actually showed a 2-hour long animal rights documentary as one of the first things, and that's
Whoa.
full of slaughterhouse footage and full of everything, which is, that just doesn't happen today. But like, I
Yeah, it
was quite
doesn't.
actually amazed to see that. I was like, wow, that was on TV. Like that's crazy.
Damn. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. But now you've got the BBC interviewer, like, talking down to you. He needs to watch that film, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should send it to him when it's done. Be like, check this out.
Yeah.
You've influenced
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's really exciting. And just kind of like harkening back to what I said to Chris, the vegan zombie, just like I'm really excited when people like kind of pour their heart into something, and like have like found like their passion project, and to see it come to fruition in the way that you are. I know you're in like the late stages and really important stages in terms of
Mhm.
like making sure that people actually get to see the film. But obviously it's going to come out in one form or another because it's damn near complete. So that's going to be really exciting to see. And yeah, I'm not shocked that, and I realize, like, you take it with a grain of salt that Steve had that reaction because he's a vegan. But I mean, it just says something, I think, about the power of music. I'm sure like something about the music is just makes you feel things differently. I mean, honestly, I feel like Dominion would be a much different film if it weren't for the music soundtrack that was
Yeah.
behind that. That guy, by the way, and I don't know if you've ever talked to him, but I actually emailed the guy who made the soundtrack for
Oh, really?
Dominion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I wanted to find a soundtrack, and he was this really nice guy. I'm blanking on his name right now, but anyway, he just like emailed me all the PD, like the all MP3s of the music. So he was very open to sending it, and
Oh,
for
wow.
free, by the way. But anyway, yeah, that was like incredible soundtrack. And yeah, and then of
Yeah.
course Moby did, a lot of the music for Earthlings, and it just really makes a difference. So yeah, well, yeah, so also we didn't mention, like, I have mentioned several times the To the Grave, like, Discovery, but that's definitely become one of my favorite bands, and just like the intensity of the music. And so I'm really grateful that you told Elle about that so she could tell me about that. And
They're literally, yeah, they're one of my favorite bands at the moment by far, and
yeah, uh,
I love them as people. Like they're
right.
genuinely the most lovely guys as well. Like we're hoping to work together. We've got some kind of ideas for if they come back to the UK of what we're going to kind of do, some kind of activism stuff around their tour and everything. So yeah, could be some good kind of collaboration kind of
Yeah,
coming up,
yeah,
which would be exciting. But yeah, those guys are legit. Like they are
yeah.
and the fact that the thing one thing I find exciting about them is that they almost feel like and they always feel like the new wave of Earth Crisis. Like I've been waiting for a while for, because you have certain bands at certain eras that create a movement kind of thing, that spark that thing in people, get people kind of riled up and ready for action kind of thing. And there's been a lot of bands like To the Grave around, which are all like amazing, but I think To the Grave are just I don't know what they're doing, but their sound, especially with this new album as well, they've managed to craft their sound in a way that it's obviously, the whole album's animal rights from start to finish, but yet it's so accessible to people within that genre that aren't even into that to listen to it and go, damn, this is awesome. Like this is
Mm,
such a good album. And I think they're starting to kind of bring people in. And then from that, obviously they're going to help inspire people and hopefully people will get into more direct action. So I'm really excited to see where To the Grave are going to go. Because if they can keep the momentum up that they've got at the moment, like I know they're supporting bands like Lorna Shore over in Australia. Obviously, this will be their third time back to the UK in just a few years next year. So obviously they're getting the opportunities, they're getting the bookings. People are interested. If they can keep building that momentum and start getting bigger and bigger and get on these bigger festivals and stuff like that, maybe we could see that next wave of activism and vegans come out of the music scene, because
yeah.
people are automatically going to go into this band and go, oh damn, they sound amazing, start reading their lyrics and be like, okay, yeah, these are challenging me, like maybe I should make a change, in the same way I did, same way a lot of people did. So yeah,
Totally. Yeah,
I'm
I
kind of
mean,
excited to see what happens with them. I think there's potential there.
I'm sure you've seen this, but like if you go on YouTube and you type into the grave, like there's just like a million videos of like metal fans like reacting to listening to their songs, and
Yeah,
everybody's just like loving it. I've never seen a negative comment about them.
yeah, they're
Like,
all not vegan, which is amazing.
right,
So you got someone
right.
there listening to a fully militant animal rights track going, this is
Exactly.
awesome. Like that is exactly what we need, and that's what excites me. It's exactly that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll second that. Like I've only met Dane, the singer, but he was just doing a live stream on YouTube where he was playing a video game. And I messaged him. I was like, "Do you want to come on my little animal rights podcast?" He said, "Yeah." And then within 2 hours, we were doing our interview, which
Oh wow.
when does that happen? Like that
What a
doesn't happen.
legend.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, isn't that cool? Like, yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for those guys. Um yeah, and as I explained to Dane, and this is true, I really thought that I was going to buy his album just out of support and then not really like it, and that is completely the opposite of what happened. I ended up loving it and buying all the other albums because I had to have it. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
and
got everything but their old CD, which I think Dane's trying to find me one. Global Warning. Apparently, there's a CD lurking around somewhere.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I've
a
got
good
every
one.
other one.
That Global Warning is really good too, by the way. And then they even had like this earlier one called what's it called? No Lives Matter, and that is like a little EP, 3-song EP that is
Oh, it's on
so good.
Spotify, that one, isn't it? Yeah, I've not actually
Yeah,
yeah, I'll have to dive into that one.
dive in and you'll love that
Mm,
shit. Yeah.
yeah, well,
Um, where was I going with that? Oh, just like, yeah, but you've kind of described like making your film, like you have all this stuff that people don't know about. Similar, like just the 5 or 6 bands that you sent me, most of them I hadn't heard before, including like the reggae album that is so new, the Animal Slavery album, that are like exactly what I wanted for like all this time, and I just didn't know they existed.
yeah,
So
that's what I'm hoping to do this film as well, is to push all these animal rights things into the mainstream as well, so people go, oh yeah, actually there's this amazing album. Like that Animal Slavery album is so good. Like
it
it's
is
probably,
good, yeah.
I absolutely love it. I listen to it all the time. It's so good. I actually found out the guy that runs the label that are releasing it is also vegan. We were chatting on
Oh,
on
interesting.
email the other day, actually, which is really cool. So released by a vegan run label as well.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, I'm just hoping that it kind of brings this kind of interest in kind of people going, oh, okay, yeah, there's all this music out here that I'm not familiar with, and there's some really amazing stuff like from all over the world that we
Yeah.
need to check out. So yeah, I mean,
I
I've
mean,
got a huge animal rights music collection like right next to me. I've like vinyls and
yeah.
CDs and sheet music and everything I've been collecting over the years, and there is so much, like so much. And
Yeah.
this is one thing I'm actually excited about, is when the film is done, that I can actually start to share all the
Oh,
things I've
yeah,
got and
yeah.
tell people about them, because I've got content for like a decade of
Yeah.
things I can talk about.
Yeah, listening to you, it sounds like you could really put together like your entire playlist full of nothing but animal rights, vegan
Oh,
inspired music.
easily days and weeks of animal rights
Yeah,
music.
and not just shitty music, because I think that's where people are gonna think, "Oh, okay, it's all animal rights stuff, like, it's gonna be just, like, some shitty music." Well, actually, like, To the Grave is, like, legit good. A lot of the bands that you sent me are, like, legit, and I'm like, that's where I would have thought it's gonna be some weak ass music, That's that I
Yeah.
would have thought that just because, like, it's maybe mainly inspired by the music, but as you described with, like, Felby, like, he actually, started. I don't know like how he started his music, but a lot of his music isn't animal rights stuff, and a
Mm,
lot of it is, but a lot of it's just biographical stuff. So,
yeah. Like, don't get
yeah,
me wrong, there's some terrible animal rights music out there.
yeah, sure,
I've gone through it all, but there's also a surprising amount of amazing stuff out there that I guarantee you'll listen to and be like, oh, damn, this is actually like a really genuinely good song.
yeah.
There's some real stuff that just needs that, needs that push. And
Yeah, I feel bad because I'm taking you away from the work, and I want you to finish this movie and
oh, no,
get
no,
it
no.
out. Yeah, you need it.
This is a well-needed break for me. I need this.
Yeah, yeah. But
I'm
I'm
more than
excited
happy
for
to.
this film because I'm ready to get that full playlist so I can start listening to all this music because everything
Yeah.
you've sent me so far has been a banger. Um, yeah, so okay, so let's talk about you as a musician because you did that cover that I saw and you mentioned being in a band. And actually I think right before we started recording this interview, you were talking about you're trying to get into like learning how to scream and and do that
Yeah.
kind of shit too. So yeah, tell me about your musical background.
Yeah. So yes, I kind of just picked up guitar when I was kind of a teenager, and then, like I said, got into the whole ska punk scene. Bands like Goldfinger, Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake. That was kind of like the scene I was in, and I ended up starting a kind of ska punk band when I was 19. I think was it? Yeah, I think it was 19. Originally called Fluff Castle.
Fluff
Strange
Castle.
name, Fluff Castle, and
Nice.
yeah, we were kind of like, if anyone is familiar with a band called the Aquabats, which was
I'm
Travis
not.
Barker from Blink 182's original
Oh,
band.
okay.
They were very ridiculous. All songs about stupid stuff. They dressed up like superheroes, that kind of
Very
thing.
prominent vegan too, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Travis? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Travis. Yeah, Travis obviously vegan as well. So,
Yeah.
um, and we kind of, were kind of inspired by that, and we didn't really take ourselves seriously, kind of thing. We kind of just went out and just sung songs about ridiculous things, and
Mm.
yeah, from that band ended up going into another band called Robolint, and we ended up kind of touring the whole UK, going to Europe, doing
Oh,
loads of
wow.
stuff. Built like quite a big fan base. I can't remember how many years we were going for now, but it was about maybe 6 years or something. Built a really good fan base. We actually did a reunion show only a couple of years back, which we were kind of expecting that we would need to find some other bands to bring the people in, and we ended up selling it out, which was incredible, considering we hadn't played for years, and it was probably the best show of my life. Actually, couldn't have gone any better. So
Nice.
yeah, I was always kind of into the music thing, and yeah, kind
Is
of.
it
I'd love to do more, but I just don't have the time. But like we were
right?
saying, I'm just kind of. I think from listening to a lot of bands like To the Grave and Knocked Loose and bands like that at the moment, I quite like to learn how to do the screaming. I think I could do it well if I could just get the technique.
Yeah.
No real reason, more of a kind of personal aim, just for
Yeah.
fun.
Well, it sounds
But
like you're pretty good friends with Dane. He could probably help you out with that
I,
even.
I did ask him, actually. I did say,
Yeah.
like, last time I saw him. So yeah, you never know. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I'll be screaming along in a kind of a vegan straight edge hardcore band one day. Who knows?
That would be awesome. That would be is this are these bands that you've been in, is that music that people can find?
Oh yeah, actually, if you go onto Spotify and search for RoboLint, you can find. Actually,
Robolint.
there was quite a funny moment with RoboLint. So we actually one of the songs I wrote was about my milkman. I don't know if you have milkmen in the US that come and deliver your milk.
I think used to.
Yeah.
Old thing.
So one of them was about him, and it was not really about the milk. It was about him. He was like a local legend kind of thing. You know, we always saw him, super nice guy. We wrote a song about him. But it was quite funny because when we did the reunion, I was kind of a bit like, I feel a bit awkward singing a song about a milkman now, kind of thing. So it actually worked out quite well because it gave me an opportunity to talk about the dairy industry. So I started talking about that, and then I just changed all the lyrics to the Messiah of non-dairy products for the whole song.
Nice.
Just switched it around, which was quite cool. But it was actually quite cool with him because I remember when I went vegan. Because one of the lyrics is Ken Farley, the god of milk, and he actually asked me because he saw me talking about like dairy industry and stuff. He actually asked me like, "Oh, am I still the god of milk?" And I said, "Of course, you're just the god of non-dairy milk now." And he actually loved it, and he always actually showed interest in what I was doing on an animal rights front. Cool. So I'd like to think he's passed away now. I'd like to think he's up in heaven on his little oat milk float. Yeah, delivering the soy milk to the
delivering soy milk while in a boat in a oat milk river. Rowing around. Yeah, that's what he's doing for sure.
Hopefully, yeah. So that was my kind of musical background. Like I said, and I started a music magazine which I ran for like 10 years. So I was interviewing a lot of bands, going to festivals all the time, which is hence why I got so many easy kind of contacts for the film. It was quite easy for me to kind of get hold of people because a lot of friends are tour managers or work for PR companies and stuff. So yeah, music's kind of been in my life ever since I was young, really. And then activism, I became vegan, and the music magazine kind of disappeared because I got into wanting to help animals instead, and that kind of took a bit of a backseat. But obviously, this is why the film's kind of perfect for me. It's the combination of my two passions.
In your bands, were you the guitarist, singer? What did you do?
Guitarist and singer. Yeah. If anyone wants to see a video of the reunion gig, if you go on my Instagram page and just scroll down a bit, actually, there's a video.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You'll see I look like an absolute sweaty mess. It's the last song of our set. It's a fun video.
Well, that's how I expect a band to look.
Yeah, you can see my brother on stage, like stage diving and stuff. And my mum's on stage and stuff as well.
Oh, nice. That's so awesome. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about your brother. We should. But real quick, we had briefly mentioned the magazine. Sure. I don't think I told people that you had run this music magazine for a long time. Yeah. What can you tell me about that?
So it was actually a funny story of how I actually started getting into that. So it all basically started when a friend invited me if I wanted to go and see the band Sum 41. And they were playing quite local to me, but I didn't have any money. I was like, I can't afford a ticket. They're like, no, don't worry, we'll get tickets outside or something like that. And something in my, I don't know what happened, but something in my head twigged that I was like, magazines get into these places for free. How can I do it? So I literally rung their record label and pretended I was from a music magazine.
Chris, wow.
And then they were like, oh, well, it's a bit late because it's on the day. We'll pass you on to someone else. And basically, they passed me on to all these different people. I ended up speaking to the tour manager, like on the phone. And I explained, I said, look, I've not done this before. We wrote for a little local magazine. We want to come and do a review. Is it possible? And he was like, oh, well, you seem to have spoken to all the right people. How many tickets do you need? I was like, 3. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. So I got me and my friends in to see Sum 41. But the thing he said, which I think changed everything, is he said, look, I can get you in, but they haven't got any more interview time. And I was like, I could have got an interview with Sum 41. Like, what? So a few months later, another band, actually, one of my favorite bands, a band called Andrew WK, was playing. And luckily they're on the same label. So I was like, well, I've spoken to these people before, so they might remember me. So I rung them up and I was like, oh, hi, it's Chris. Yeah, I spoke to you about Sum 41. And I was like, I see Andrew WK is playing in London. Is there any chance we can get tickets? And they're like, yeah, absolutely fine. And I was like, does he have any interview time? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. We'll pencil you in. I was like, oh my God, I got an interview with Andrew WK.
Shit, nice.
I don't write for any magazine whatsoever. So me and all my friends piled into his tour bus, like with this little dictaphone, interviewing him. And we actually told him, we confessed. We were like, look, we don't write for a magazine. We just really wanted to meet you. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. He cancelled he cancelled all his other interviews he was doing and literally sat with us for ages, just talking to us. We got on stage with him. He dedicated a song to us, like absolute
Oh
legend.
my God. Oh my
And it
God.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, and it just escalated. I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then I was like, there's a big festival over here called Reading Festival. I'd email like every single band on the bill and tell them I'd been let down for passes and could they help me out? And then people were like, yeah, no worries, we'll put you on our guest list. So I was getting in. And then eventually I was kind of like, you know what? Actually, I've been doing all these interviews. I should put them online
Yeah.
and everything.
You're
And then
doing the work.
yeah, then so I kind of started my own zine, and that then just kind of escalated and escalated. It started called So You Want to Play was like the original one, and then it went to one called Vexed, and then it became Hit the Floor, which was basically the one that kind of took off. And I was running
Yeah.
that. Like, I was running that as my full-time job for like 10 years. And we were going to like, major festivals, interviewing kind of every big band you could possibly think of all the time, and it was, yeah, literally my life, as being a music journalist. But yeah, it all kind of started just because I wanted to get into a Sum 41 show for free.
That
I think I've repaid my debt to the music world.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I think so. I think so.
complete deception, but I've put in the work since. So.
That is hilarious, and that's got to be like one of my favorite stories that I've heard. I also just love that the guy was really tickled by the fact that you were like, yeah, I just pretended to be a journalist to get on your tour bus and talk to you, which is so legendary. Yeah,
I
because
remember his tour manager came in and was like, Andrew, there's another interview, and he's like, no, cancel it. I'm really enjoying this. Cancel it.
yeah,
And then the only reason he had to stop is because the tour manager came in and he was getting a bit annoyed, and he was like, Andrew, these people, he's like, these people have come from Germany. Like, you
oh
need
yeah,
to do this interview.
damn. That's hilarious, man. I love that. Yeah. So I also know like, so because I used to work for NPR, like every now and then I'd be able to like interview like musicians and stuff. And, there was like when I started my career, I started in Wilmington, North Carolina. It was right across from this amazing music venue where I would just hang out all the time. So I get to meet all these bands all the time. And I just got to know musicians, kind of like you were describing, like you would meet like some of these bands like before they were big. And so you could like just literally be like having a beer with them and talking to them. They'll take you upstairs and show you their latest, what they're working on, that kind of thing. It was like that. And that was exciting. I'll tell you, like my favorite, like I'm so proud of this. I got to interview Pussy Riot, the band.
Oh,
I
really?
mean,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Is that not cool or what? I
That is cool.
wonder.
Did you ever go
Yeah.
to a Tiny Desk concert though?
Oh man, no, but I met so many of the people who had been on Tiny Desk concerts, and including like one of my good friends, this guy David Dondero, who at one point, Bob Boylan, who does the Tiny Desk over at NPR, I think it was him. He made a list of like the greatest living songwriters and had my friend Dave on that list, along with
Wow.
Dylan and Paul McCartney and all these like people. And then there's Dave Dondero, who legit is a great songwriter. So check him out, by the way, if you don't.
Yeah, no, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Tiny Desk concerts. I've been watching them quite a lot. Yeah, the Chapel
Yeah.
Roan one, if anyone wants a good recommendation. She's
Chapel
incredible.
Roan. Oh yeah, I haven't seen it. I actually haven't been following NPR music in a long time. Since I left NPR, I haven't followed them. But that's one of the things that I've really appreciated about NPR was like getting me into like all these indie bands and stuff that I wouldn't have known about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about your brother, and that was one of the videos that when we were doing our live react, I almost reacted to, and then I was like, I don't know if this has brutal footage, if I should react to this. But so the story is like, I guess your brother, who was a non-vegan at the time, you and Mel and Steve, I guess you guys had this idea to take him onto a farm and show him, and he was like totally down for that. But yeah, give me a little bit of the backstory of that.
Sure, yes. So I've been talking to my brother about it for quite a long time, this idea kind of thing. He's always been kind of, he would always listen to me. He always kind of, agreed with what I said, but he was always like, as soon as I put any kind of pressure on him to be like, well, you should probably change kind of thing, he would always kind of be like, get all awkward, the typical routine. But he was always quite open to, I was like, what about if I could take you? Would you go? And he was like, yeah, I would do it. And we kind of got an opportunity to do that in the fact that Mel and Steve had also been speaking to me, asking if I could take them out because they'd never been anywhere themselves, which actually wasn't kind of covered enough. And I think that they, I know they kind of put my brother as the forefront, but I think, people don't realize that was, you know, one of their first times in a farm as well. It was the first time in a pig farm. They went to a chicken farm the night before. That was the only other farm they've ever been in. So it was kind of their first time. And because they were coming down, and also I've got to give a shout out to Calvin as well, who's kind of in the videos, especially in the slaughterhouse one, amazing animal rights photographer who came with us as well. He's absolutely amazing. Please go follow Calvin, absolute legend. Yeah, so he was coming as well. So I thought, okay, well, we got a
well, just real quick, how can people find Calvin? Like on Instagram or something, or
yeah, just on Instagram, Calvin Tasker, Tasker.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, we got a good group of people, like, you know, people that I trust and everything. I'm like, I'm taking Mel and Steve out to a chicken farm on one night. So I was like, well, that will give them a bit of a kind of, you know, a heads up on what to expect and everything, and get them a first experience kind of thing. So I thought, well, why don't I ask my brother if he wants to come out on the second night, and we can film it and everything. And then I thought, like, I hadn't really been active on my YouTube for a while, just because I've obviously been doing the film and stuff. So I was like, well, Mel and Steve obviously got a very active platform. Let's do it for their channel. Like, perfect. So yeah, so I asked my brother and said, yeah, do you want to come out? And he was game. So we took Mel and Steve out to the chicken farm first and everything, and they obviously made a video and everything about that themselves. And then then the next night, obviously went to met my brother and everything. He met Mel and Steve and everything, and then we were just like, okay, right, yeah, this is what we're going to do. We'd already been out and recce'd the place. It's actually a place I've been to, probably about 5 years prior, so I kind of knew the kind of layout and kind of, you know, knew kind of what to expect in there. And yeah, he we just kind of set him up, interviewed him about it and everything, and was all right, let's go kind of thing. And he could not believe it. It's changed his life. It's actually changed his life. Like, he was kind of like open-minded and everything, kind of, thinking, I gave him a rough idea of what to expect. I said, look, we see a lot of dead piglets, we see mums in cages and stuff like that. But there's one thing explaining it to someone, and there's one thing showing it to somebody. And when he was there, I could just tell straight away the look on his face and the way he was there. He was just, we just melted his brain. He could not believe this existed, that this was real, and you can see that if you watch the video. You can see on his face that kind of like anger. There's kind of anger on his face at points where he's just like, he's seeing like this mother in a cage and with a dead baby in front of them and everything. And it was horrendous. And then obviously after that, it really messed with him. He didn't really know what to think. Kind of, he knew it was bad, and he knew that he was contributing to it, but he almost had this kind of inner conflict of where he was like, I know I need to change, but my brain's trying to fight me on it. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, we had this Skype meeting with him afterwards, where basically he's saying, look, I'm not going to tell you guys that I've gone vegan because that's not honest, but like, I'm thinking, my brain's ticking, something's happening. And then we kind of came up with the idea, okay, well, why don't we take you to a slaughterhouse vigil? Like, let's show you the other side. Let's show you another part of it. So we arranged to take him to the slaughterhouse. I think that was kind of the moment that kind of really hit home for him, because it was that, seeing those animals in the truck, it was almost like, well, that it doesn't matter what kind of farm they came from. They could have come from a free range farm. They could have come from the most worst factory farm you've ever seen. They could have been, someone's pets, for all we know. Could have lived in a mansion. And the fact that he could go there and he could hear the gas chambers and hear the big screaming in the gas chambers, which you could if you went around the back. And something just clicked in him. And also he really resonated with one of the workers. We were talking to this worker because we could see that the worker was getting emotional when we were talking to him, and we were like, this guy's not a bad guy. Yeah, he's not a bad guy at all. Like, he's what we're saying is clearly resonating with him. And so like Mel and Steve and Calvin were talking to him, being like, look, you're not a bad guy. Like, you can change, you can do all this stuff. And my brother's obviously listening into this conversation. My brother said to me, it was like, I know they were talking to him, but it felt like they were talking to me as well. And every word that was being said was kind of like he was taking in, kind of thing. And then from then he kind of just kind of rung me and was just like, yeah, I'm in. I'm gonna give
I'm
it a go.
in.
Like, I mean, kind of thing. And then since then, he has dove in. He is like, he's already designing a prop to go out and do some street outreach and
Nice.
everything. So he's getting straight into the activism. His literally all he posts on Instagram now is like Joey clips and
Yeah,
clips of
yeah, yeah.
activists and everything. He's been trying to make his own little reels and everything.
Hmm. Which
It's
something you posted the other day, and you shouted out your own brother and said, he made his first clip. It was like System of a Down
Yeah,
playing in the
that's the one. Yeah,
background,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, and it was pretty good for like a
Yeah, I
first
mean, he's
reel.
never done any editing. He's never done anything about this.
Yeah,
He's just like, it's a fire's definitely been set under him,
yeah.
and it's
How
it
exciting.
yeah, it's been so interesting to see. Obviously, it's been 10 years I've been trying to change my brother. Well, I mean, more than that if you include when I was vegetarian as well. And it's just so interesting to see such huge change in someone, like from literally one day going to his house for Christmas dinner and turkey and big lumps of meat everywhere and everything now, and now he's just constantly sending me pictures of vegan products that he's found in the
Yeah.
supermarkets and these amazing Thai meals that he's always making. He's better than I do. And the fact that he's just constantly posting about it, and he just it's like, I don't know. It's
Wow.
such, it's amazing to see. It's really amazing to see. If you wanted to talk to him, I'm sure he would come on and
Oh
have a
yeah,
chat
yeah.
if you wanted. Like,
Absolutely, I would. Yeah,
yeah, like,
absolutely.
he'd be really up for that. Because obviously, I think it'd be interesting to. I mean, I know you can go and watch the podcast with Mel and Steve, but I think, which obviously gives a lot more information. Definitely go and watch that if anyone hasn't. And that's kind of like the
Mhm.
reveal episode where
Yeah.
Colin says he's vegan and everything. Where there's some really really amazing bits in that video. But I think chatting to him now and kind of getting that, he's been vegan for a little while now, and how he's sunk in
Mhm.
and how he's adjusted and wanting to do activism, and I think it'd be super interesting to talk to you. He would totally do it as well if I ask him. So if you
Yeah,
want me to
yeah.
ask him, I can.
Yeah, please do. I would love to have it, and almost like as a follow-up to this one, because yeah, that is a very moving story. And I'm sure for you personally, like it's very moving to see your brother make this
Yeah,
change. Like it's
first family
yeah,
member that's changed,
that's it. Wow.
and the cool thing is as well, which is, I mean, like, the thing is, my family are very, very, very supportive of everything I do, and they always agree. They don't really argue with me. I mean, my dad tries to argue with me, but he knows he's just going to lose. But they have made some, some big changes. My
Yeah.
mum, drinks soy milk now and everything, and they eat a lot more vegan stuff.
Mm,
It was interesting when my brother changed. My mum suddenly took the leap to become pescatarian. That was her next
I
move.
see. I
But
see.
the fact there was even that kind of shift was like, okay, well, I've been trying this for years. I'll take whatever I can get
Yeah.
right now, like,
Yeah.
pescatarian, so it's like, yeah, great, like that's another step forward for her, which I know she's going to find easy, and hopefully that's going to be the next thing to keep her moving.
Hmm.
But I mean, my parents are in there. I mean, my dad's going to be 70 this year. I mean, so the fact that they're still listening, to me and now to my brother and making changes and everything is amazing. And it's their fault that I'm an activist anyway. My mum brought me up to be a big animal lover, and my dad
Mm.
brought me up to always stand up for things I believe in. And
Yeah.
he was always very kind of militant about that. There's loads of
Mm.
stories I can tell about that, but different kind of subject. But
Yeah.
they created a vegan activist essentially, so it's kind of their fault.
You just reminded me of, so one of the coolest interviews that I've done on my channel was with this lady Liesel, who she grew up in Nazi Germany, and her father was like a Nazi.
Right.
And she discovered that when she was like 9 years old. And she tells the story about how her dad had taught her, like, question everything. Like, and so her Nazi father basically taught her how to question him when she
Okay.
learned like what he was. Like that's very interesting. Like the
Yeah, that's super
yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
I
it's
know.
funny. It's funny. It's actually
Not
funny.
to equate. Don't think I'm
No, no, no,
equating.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. Like, in the way that with my dad and the way he's influenced me. Like I said, he was very militant in standing up for for what you believe in. Like for example, when I went to kind of college, I dyed my hair like bright colors and that stuff all the time.
Mhm.
And that they tried to tell me that I had to wear a hat on site and I couldn't do it and everything. And my dad helped basically write this letter for me to them to basically say that it was discrimination. And if
Oh, shit.
if an old lady had come in to use the facilities with blue hair, they would never, get her to wear a hat or anything like that and everything. And I actually won. I actually beat the school,
Yeah, nice.
and they changed the rules and everything. And I've always kind of been like that throughout my life. If I see something's wrong, I've always been like, well, no, that's wrong, and I stand up for it. And that's all from my dad.
Mm.
Um, and so it's been quite interesting with the vegan thing, because it's kind of like it's a bit of a role reversal now. I'm trying to tell my dad that he's doing something and he needs to change.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that he's a bit stubborn about it, but I think he cares a lot more than he lets on, though, because he's always. I mean, I think he makes more vegan food than my mum does, to be fair.
yeah.
When he cooks and everything, but so I think inside I'm maybe getting to him a bit more than he lets on. But
Mm.
outside, he's like, "I'll never be a vegan. I never do it, never do it." But I don't know. It seems like the kind of thing that he should be, because he's always been the stand up for what you believe in. Very vehemently anti-racist, all this kind of stuff. It's just
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
this seems like the kind of thing you should be on board with, Dad.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask that, and I wanted to ask that in the context of your brother, which if I talk to your brother, it's obviously a better question for him. But from your perspective, why do you think it is that your brother, and now by extension your father, had this like intense like resistance, it sounds like, because they were open to being respectful about it. And I'm almost surprised that, your brother, after being on the pig farm, was still having this battle in his mind. Like, why do you think there was such a wall to veganism?
um, I think I think before that, I think just generally in listening to me, I think it's because we he loves animals. He's a huge animal lover, and I think the thinking about animals being harmed is too much. And I know my mum's like that. She shies away if I start talking about animals being harmed. She's like, don't want to know, don't want to know, don't want to know, don't want to know. I think
Mm,
that's definitely a barrier. They need to kind of like let that information sink in rather than try and block it out all the time. And then
right.
think I think it's I don't know. I don't know what it was with my brother in that moment. I guess maybe it's just the general thing of people are scared to change. They think it's such a
Mm,
huge thing, and I think obviously he's realized now actually it's so easy. But I think at that moment, I think he's like, oh my god, this is so difficult. This is so difficult. There's going to be so much change, and I don't know. Maybe I mean I never really kind of dove into this with him, but maybe I don't know. He saw the way people kind of acted towards me being a vegan and kind of thought that there's the stigma or something. Maybe I don't know.
mm,
Um, I really don't. I mean, that's something you might have to ask him. But I mean,
yeah.
It definitely didn't take him long. He did say though that he just generally needs time to process things. Like he's not the kind of person who's kind of like makes split decisions. He needs time
Mhm.
to really think things over and mull it over in his own time. And I know he was very appreciative that we allowed him to do that, and we didn't just kind of go, "All right, you've been now. Are you vegan now? Are you vegan?" kind of thing. We
Yeah.
were kind of, we
Which
didn't
was
do that.
probably what I would have done.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't do that at all. We kind of like we left him. We said like,
Yeah.
right, you're gonna go. We're gonna check in on him and make sure he's okay. But
Hmm.
we didn't want to push. We just wanted to kind of like let him make his own mind up. Obviously it worked.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
worked doing that. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, I think initially it definitely because they're big animal lovers, and I think
Mhm.
it's painful to hear what's going through to animals, because he was a huge, huge, huge animal lover. Like, yeah.
That's interesting. It's very ironic that, and I didn't really think about this, that the barrier could be that people love animals so much that they can't engage with the content. That's a interesting problem. That's an
Yeah,
interesting problem that we have to overcome. And yeah, that's why, maybe like you said, this film that you've made is something that is so accessible to people that may be the entryway point.
yeah. I mean, I don't
Um,
know about you, because I know a few friends had this, but w when I first went vegan, it's like I almost had a I mean, I can't really call it a breakdown. So it wasn't like I was having a mental breakdown or something. But I had like this moment of realization, and I remember it vividly, where I'd wrote a Facebook post and I was talking about the animals and saying how many animals get killed, and I saw all these people that I know and love and friends and everything all against it. And it made me realize how little people care and how enormous this problem is. And I
Oh yeah.
remember like fully breaking down in tears. Kind of my partner at the time was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." Like, kind of, and I know a few friends have had that kind of moment. And I think it's, understanding that is a tough pill to swallow. It is, you've got to
Mhm.
suddenly open your eyes to the fact that everyone around you is supporting the most horrific suffering and exploitation on the planet. And it's just like,
Yeah.
people just don't want to know that. It's just, ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
as they say.
And unfortunately, my reaction was that I kind of determined that a lot of my friends were just full of shit because, like, a lot of my friends were very passionately like against forms of oppression against humans. And so these are the people who I imagined if I told them about this stuff that there would be no resistance. And I
Mm,
found that those were often the people that were the most resistant to my message. In fact, like one of my earliest, kind of like you described, like writing on a Facebook post, like one of my earliest things that I did was to go on this, like I was very political, very politically on the left. And I went on this blog website called Daily Kos, which is very popular leftist United States based, I
right.
believe. And it was just like basically a post that was like, watch Dominion, check out this film. And I got banned from the website. And partly the reason I got banned from the website was because my reaction down in the comments just kept being, watch the film, because everybody was fighting me. And I was just so taken aback and disappointed with people
Mm,
who like claim to be against all these forms of oppression. And I have sent, and look, I understand, like, this is hard for a lot of people. And so I don't say this about everybody, but I have learned that some of my friends who claim to be something are just completely full of shit. And that's not everybody who rejects this message. It's not your brother, it's not your family. But just some of the most like
mm.
militantly anti-oppression people are just like complete posers. They're just
Yeah,
doing
I know what you mean. You kind of,
yeah.
you kind of see who the virtue signalers are. That are just
Yeah,
kind of, oh yeah,
exactly.
I'm against this. But as soon as it's something where, well, to be against this, you have to actually do something and not just post
Right.
on Instagram. Like suddenly it's a problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, this reminds me, and I always wondered whether this was actually a controversial kind of thing to write. When I read it just as I went vegan, I actually wrote an article which was called, what was it called again? It was something about, it was something like, would you still be anti-racist if you had to give up meat? Or something like that. And it was basically
Mhm.
saying that kind of thing. It was basically calling out almost what we're talking about here. It was saying like, people seem to want to say they're against all these things, but as soon as it means you actually have to take action in some way, you're not interested. It's like,
Right.
and so it was asking that question, like, if, for example, to be anti-racist, it involved you having to give up meat and dairy. Just say there was this very strong connection between between those things as a hypothetical. Would would you do it, or would you remain like
Yeah.
racist kind of thing? 'Cause I remember writing it because a friend of mine actually said, like, yeah, are you kind of sure about publishing this kind of thing? It sounded a bit controversial, but I mean, this was just my thought process I was going through when I first went.
Yeah.
It was very very early on, probably within the first 6 months to a year that I was vegan. I was just having these thoughts, and I think it probably came from the same kind of thing as you. Yeah, seeing people that are so, yeah, kind of like, we're against oppression, and it's just like, well, here's an oppression. We can prove it happens. We can show everything that's going on, but you've got to do, you got to change. You can't just talk about this one,
Right.
kind of
Right.
thing. And I hate saying that because it seems like you don't have to do anything to be against all these other things. Of course, you do. You have to, to just
Well, in a
to
way,
be truly anti-racist. It's not like, you just don't do anything. But I
yeah.
mean, with veganism, there is, that I think it is unique in as a social justice issue in that it does involve a complete upheaval of your entire life.
Right. Right.
From what you wear, from what you're everything you're taking, it's, you start going through your wardrobes, you start going through your
Right.
cupboards. It's
Hmm.
there's a different level to it, and I think a lot of people just aren't willing to do that.
Yeah.
Everyone's willing to,
Well, it's just easy to be not racist. You just don't be racist. It's easy to be not homophobic. You just don't do that, like, but yeah, like it's just very interesting because this is
Mm.
the form of discrimination that people are actively partaking in, and
Mm.
when they're confronted with that, and I kind of I understand when people react with defensiveness because I think that's natural, but it's like what you do, okay, in the moment you're defensive, I get that. But what do you do in the weeks, months after you've had this confrontation and you've actually started to look at, and I think that's a great article that you would have almost published because it is like, I mean, we equate racism and speciesism. They are kind of the same thing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, like it is a form of racism, really. And
Or speciesism, isn't it? It's,
right,
it's all,
right,
it's, all those things are, are connected in the way that it's just a oppression for arbitrary reasons, ultimately.
right. Yeah.
But yeah, it just means some causes just require you to do more than others. And I guess there are probably other causes. I mean, if you want to be, say, on the cause of fair trade clothing and stuff like that, obviously that means you've got to take action and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
do things differently. But I think I guess with doing stuff like that, there's no stigma. No one's like, oh my god, you fair trade idiot.
Yeah.
What are you doing buying fair trade? Damn you, kind of thing. But
Imagine.
yeah, yeah. I guess we've
Anti-fair
got
trade channels
yeah
and shit.
we've got the action and we've got the stigma to go along with it.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is
Which
that
may
kind of
be which may be the problem. Yeah, and it may be that people just view vegans like as annoying or whatever. I mean, but
I mean,
that's just
I did say in a talk I did for NARD, and I stand by this. I do think that veganism is the most radical action of social justice that we can take as a human being. There is no other social justice cause I know of that requires so much personal change, like immediate personal change.
mhm.
I don't know of anything else. Like it's literally like, right, I'm vegan. I can no longer, buy any of these things. I can't go and support these things. If my family wants to go to that, I'm not going. Like you literally basically turn yourself into an outcast. You're against like 99.9% of society. I
Yeah,
don't know any other social justice issue that has that level of personal change and stigma.
yeah.
Um, which is why, like, I respect the hell out of anyone that gets on board of this, and people should really, really be proud of themselves. I think
Oh,
for
yeah, yeah.
being a vegan and an activist and stuff, and realizing how much the world is against you and how much sacrificing you're
Yeah.
making. It's badass.
Well, I would, if anybody listening to this isn't vegan, I would just say that for me, I don't know if it's just like me and Chris's types of personality, but for me, it's extremely empowering because I am anti-racist, I am anti-homophobic, and I can't show that in my daily life. But with veganism, I have to eat 3 times a day or 2 times or
Mm.
whatever. It's a real opportunity for me to make a stand every time. And now I believe, and I know you believe this too, Chris, like, well, at least like in for your personal self, that being vegan wasn't enough for you. You wanted to be an activist as well.
Yeah.
So I do believe that for some people, if all you can do is be a vegan, please just be a vegan. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like the most that we can do, but I think it's the least we can do is what I'm saying. But yeah, to me it's just the opposite of like feeling like this tremendous weight. Instead, it's like I have the opportunity to put into action all the time what I believe in.
Yeah.
Um I love that, honestly. Like I mean, even if you like, I don't know if you had this experience, like I really don't have that many vegan meals that I don't like. It's really seldom. But when I do, I'm still like, that was vegan, which is like a fucking rebel. It's still rebelling. And I loved it. I still like that
No,
meal.
it's such an act of rebellion, which is kind of funny. Like we get this
Yeah.
stigma of kind of like being these hippies kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it's like couldn't be any further from the truth. Yes, you get your hippie vegans kind of stuff, but I mean it's punk rock to its core. It
Right.
is
Right.
fuck the system, fight
Yeah.
authority. It is literally fighting against everything. It's going completely against the norm. It is counterculture, alternative. It's all of these things. which I think, it was obviously why, kind of going back a bit of a music reference, why the alternative counterculture music scenes, such as
Yeah.
the heavier stuff, the punk and everything, embraced it so much because
Yeah.
it went along with that. It went along with that fuck the system.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's, and I don't think people see that. I don't think a lot of non-vegans kind of realize that. They just think, oh, you're a vegan, but you're just like, well, yeah, if you take more of a look at who's a vegan, they got to have some, they got to have some confidence to be able to be like, well, I'm just going to go against every single person I know and then
Yeah.
99% of the world and say sorry. Like, that takes courage to be able to stand up and do that. And I think even if you don't maybe agree with the cause, you should at least acknowledge that, hell,
Mhm.
they're not virtue signaling, they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're going to stand up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think, yeah, it's veganism
Yeah.
is punk rock to its core.
Yeah, it's punk as fuck. And I think that when you bring out your film, hopefully that's the message that people will get. Yeah, just because yeah, somehow, like, when I look back at the animal rights history and I realize, like, so much of it was like kind of this punk rock movement back in the 80s and 90s, and then these kind of like radical dudes wearing balaclavas and going into farms and stuff. It's like cool imagery that we've sort of lost, like these are like real life superheroes, like doing things for no fame. And especially the people with the masks on, you don't even know who the hell they were. They were just anonymous people,
I mean,
like
that's such a good point you said there. Like anonymous superheroes. Like,
yeah,
you couldn't be any more right with these people. Like,
right,
yeah, they're going in risking their freedoms, to free animals that society don't even value more than like a pound. They'll go in
right,
and rescue chickens that are probably worth next to nothing because they know that chicken will value its life, and they want no credit for it whatsoever. They
right,
don't want
right,
anyone to know the name. We don't want anything. Like, and I think that is, yeah, that is incredible. I have so much respect for
yeah,
those real underground ALF activists that are going out and doing, the real the real
yeah.
direct action work out there and not even getting any credit whatsoever.
And
Like,
like
fair
the
play to them, fair play. That's amazing.
Right, and I mean, just like Superman, right? Like, the story is like he's Clark Kent. He's like this, isn't he like a reporter in the
Yeah,
daytime?
yeah.
Wears his glasses, and so he's like this guy. And very similarly, I know a lot of these guys back in the day, they would be like doctors or lawyers or whatever. Like they were like people who like had these jobs, and then at nighttime came, they put their mask on, and then they became Superman.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just funny though, isn't it? Because it's almost like, should the ALF start wearing like Superman costumes instead? Maybe they'll get more acknowledgement. Obviously, that the black
Oh,
name might be too intimidating, like an extremist. But wouldn't it be an interesting experiment though? Just imagine if ALF went, okay, from now on we're going to dress as superheroes, promote ourselves as superheroes, and then go and do all these rescues and all this stuff, and then see if
yeah.
the public opinion changes of us. That would be an interesting experiment.
Somebody's got to do that. And
Yeah.
now
If it,
if somebody does it, they're going to be like, that was Jeremy or Chris. We know it.
but yeah, if there's any actress out there who want to steal that idea, please do, because I would
Yeah,
love to
please
see that
do
in
that.
action.
Please do that. Just be careful with the cape, because if you're trying to like get past a like a fence or something, that's going to get caught.
No, you're more like a
Yeah,
utility belt kind of thing, don't you?
yeah,
Little eye mask and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
The Animal Liberation Front, you might need to rename that as well, like Animal Superhero League or something.
Yeah. How great would that be? And then you could make a movie about that, and it could be a
Yeah.
documentary or a fictional. Yeah,
There
that'd
we go.
be
We've
great.
just founded it now, the AHL, Animal Hero League. There we go.
Animal Hero League, AHL. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds cool. I think people will get on board with that. So
And
it's good. It's the
if
new
it's the
ALF.
animals, yes, it's the Animal Superhero League, and it could be Ashel, Assel. It sounds like Assel.
Someone would change it tonight.
We'll
We'll just
change
stick with
that.
the AHL, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be cool. Yeah. Shaq, Superhero Action Committee. The Shaq
Yeah,
campaign. The new Shaq campaign.
sounds
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on board. So yeah, everyone start buying your costumes and yeah, let's go rescue
Exactly.
some animals.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can mix it up. We can have Superman, Batman, we can have all different kinds of superheroes doing the work.
Yeah.
It'd be
I honestly
cool.
think it'll be good. I honestly think that the reaction will be so much different though. Like, you just think about it.
Yeah.
Like, even from when people do open rescues, like the
Hmm.
reaction to them is generally different to the ALF ones. The ALF one, they look at them and they're like balaclavaed up and they think, oh, we're extremists or everything. They look at
Yeah.
open rescues as a bit more kind of like, oh, they're showing their face, member of the public kind of thing. You know, still extremists though. But it'd just be interesting to see if it was done in such a way where it was like, yeah, like the Justice League kind of thing. I don't
Well,
know.
you mentioned Animal Rising earlier, and actually, I remember in an interview that Wayne was doing with Rose, she was talking about the like using pink like bolt cutters, like as a direct, like purposeful, like
Oh,
this is
really?
an
I didn't
act
know
of
about
love.
that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so they were like doing that, and that was purposeful to be like, yeah, we're peaceful. And then who was it?
Yeah, that's interesting. I never.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just yeah, I mean, yeah, because they can easily paint animal rights activists, and they're trying, and they succeed a lot of times as these extremists. But I mean, the action, if you just stop and think about it, all we're doing is trying to save some animals, like so.
Exactly. It's the
Yeah,
least extreme thing ever.
it is. It is like an action against extremism. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's funny that we get labeled as extremists, because I would actually say that as a movement, we're probably one of the most passive of all of them. Like, if look at some of the things that have happened. Like, for example, with Black Lives Matter, for example. Black
Hmm.
Lives Matter saw a problem, and we saw what happened, kind of thing. Like, the animal rights movement aren't barely doing that at all. You get the odd like ALF action, which might kind of do something, but we're not like rallying together in these kind of ways to really kind of um show the world like, oh my god, that we're serious and we're going to take kind of more action than just kind of standing on a street and asking people nicely to go vegan. um so I think we're actually quite passive considering the severity of the cause
Oh
in a way.
yeah.
It does feel like, do we need to be a bit more militant in a way?
Mm.
Because other movements do, and it throughout history we have seen that work, kind of
Hmm.
thing. Like pacifism can only get you so far in some things. And I'm not trying to promote everyone to go out and be violent, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, right.
I'm not going to say that, but I think people need to understand the severity of
Yeah.
something. It doesn't seem very severe if you've just got like three people holding a sign saying please stop, kind of thing. Rather if
Mhm.
you've got three people smashing some windows and being like, we're not going to leave until you change things. Like Meet the Victims. Like Meet
Right.
the Victims is even much as that was a peaceful action, it was still like people knew we meant business. And I think and
Yeah.
that's why it got publicity. We were people were like, oh damn, these people have broken into this farm and we're refusing to leave. Like,
Yeah.
that shows we're doing this for a reason. We're willing to risk our freedom. That kind of direct action. I think we need more of that. And I know that's difficult because obviously you are risking freedoms, but I don't know. I'd like to see more of it in the future, I guess.
Why do you think the UK in particular has been such a hotbed of this sort of like more confrontational approach?
I think we've got laws that help us to do so.
Mm,
For example, trespass isn't a criminal act in the UK; it's a civil offence. So
mm,
it's fine as long as you kind of leave. If we ask you to leave, obviously then it goes to aggravated trespass. But I think the UK, obviously, we don't have a lot of the problems that other countries do. We don't have people, farmers with guns and stuff. I mean, I'm sure there are some, but I mean, we don't have that danger so much, which I think encourages people more to be able, to feel safer doing these kind of actions.
mhm.
You're more likely to just get a slap on the wrist or a fine, or yeah, if you're willing to get a criminal record. But as far as kind of like a risk of violence and stuff, although it has happened, of course, there has been times. I think there was could have been a Meet the Victims actually. Someone got attacked with like some sort of crowbar or something, which
Oh
was
wow.
very violent. Yeah, one of the farm. I don't know if it was a farmer or farmer's son or something, really kicked off. But we don't get a lot of that happen, and I think that we kind of know that, and we can take advantage of it. I think that's probably why people are likely to rally together. We feel safe
Hmm.
Well, I guess you doing that kind of thing in the US is a bit of a different thing. I mean, I remember doing the DXE action at Petaluma Poultry
Hmm.
after the
Hmm.
ALC, and obviously you get the um, police there with machine guns and all
Oh
that kind
yeah.
of stuff. It looks a hell of a lot more intimidating than if the British police show up, kind
Yeah,
of
they
thing.
look like stormtroopers rolling in,
Yeah, it's crazy, and we just don't have that
Hmm.
here. Um,
There also seems to be a bit of a rebellious spirit in a lot of the activists in the UK. I don't know if that's something that, I mean, obviously, like Ronnie Lee started things with the ALF
yeah,
in the UK, and but there's just also, yeah, maybe it is just the laws, but there's also just seems to be like um, in your populace, it seems to be like you guys are willing to stand up to authority a bit more
yeah.
than
No,
others.
no, I would agree with that, and I think like some of the early kind of politics probably sparked that, like kind of the Thatcher years and stuff like that. Caused a lot of civil unrest, and people kind of stood up to that and protested a lot of kind of anti-capitalism kind of
Mm,
thing. And obviously that at the end, obviously and obviously punk was a big thing here.
mm.
So obviously that definitely sparked. And so actually, I found something interesting. Like you mentioned, Ronnie Lee. Obviously, the ALF and stuff kind of came out of the kind of hunt sabs and stuff initially. I actually found out that the hunt saboteurs were actually basically the guy who formed them was pretty much from my hometown, from the area that I lived in, which is
Oh
pretty
wow.
awesome. Yeah, I live in a place. Used to live in a place called Torbay in Devon, and it's made up of 3 kind of tiny towns. And yeah, apparently the guy in Brixham was the guy that started the hunt saboteurs, which is pretty
Wow.
cool. So we've actually got
Yeah.
some good animal rights history from where I'm from, which is kind of cool. So I don't
Yeah,
know
that
whether
is
that's
cool.
sunk down into me in any way, but
Mhm. Maybe it
yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was actually strangely, I used to live right next to a zoo, and there was actually an ALF action at the zoo, and they took some of the animals. They took some Scottish bobcats, I believe, and freed them back up in Scotland
Oh
from
wow.
the zoo that I used to live near, which was pretty cool to find out as well that the ALF was active kind of
Nice.
down there.
Well,
So
I don't know these different locales in the UK, but one of my recent interviews was with Tom Harris, and he was saying that yeah, one of the things that he had a similar thing where like there was like this, I believe he described like a hamster rescue or something that
okay,
happened like right in his hometown, and he had just learned that too. Like so, yeah, like maybe it's like all these like little actions that took place in people's
yeah.
hometowns over
It's been
there. Yeah.
crazy actually, like looking into my hometown, because also there used to be we got this kind of like real old kind of building called Tor Abbey. I think
Mm,
there used to be like monks there and stuff, possibly back in the day. But they used to hold meetings there for what basically became the Humane Slaughter Association, which obviously was set up when in good faith. Obviously, we hate the Humane Slaughter Association now because it's all bullshit. But obviously, they set it up back in the day because they were trying to be nice to animals,
yeah.
kind of thing. And apparently, there was an anti-vivisection league down where I lived as well. And I also remember as a child, there was a local group that used to give out leaflets and stuff on the streets and everything as well. I think they're called
Mhm.
like Animal Voices or something like that. So yeah, strangely, there was actually quite a lot of animal rights stuff going on in just the little area that I was in, which is actually quite cool to learn. I was in kind of quite a little kind of hotbed in the UK for animal rights activism, which is pretty cool.
Nice, and you're
Yeah,
just continuing that legacy.
yeah, yeah. I guess it's kind of nice to think, yeah, maybe I'm kind of helping to keep the history of the animal rights movement there,
Yeah.
along with all the other. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing activists from down that way. I would give a shout out to Ross Mayhew if he watches this. He runs the Devon Against Horse Racing
Oh,
thing, and
nice.
there's
Nice.
some good friends down there who hunt saboteurs and everything as well.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's some really great people down in Devon doing some good work. So
nice. Well, I know you've drawn a ton of inspiration from the music and stuff, but I always ask my guests when I bring them on, like, what are some like books that you recommend, like films, whatever, like things that you draw inspiration from, and it could be animal rights stuff, could be stuff beyond animal rights, even.
okay, so film wise, definitely Joanne MacArthur's documentary. I would
Hmm.
watch. That was like game changing for me. It was just really influential. Obviously just made me want to go out and do it. As far as kind of things I don't know. I mean, like, I guess music recommendations I'd have to give, kind of thing. Like, I think if you're into that heavier music, you need to listen to The Grave. They are going to
Yes.
fire you up. You're just going to want to go out and just like
Do it all.
burn down a lab or something. Like it's going to get you motivated, put it that way. Earth Crisis as well. Every single vegan on the planet should be forced to know about Earth Crisis,
Yes.
considering their legacy. I mean, we haven't really gone into the legacy of Earth Crisis a lot in this chat, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think people should go and look into them and realize how influential they were. And like we kind of mentioned, you can make an argument there are a lot of people on the planet that probably wouldn't be vegan if it wasn't for Earth Crisis. And if you follow that line, that lineage of things, which is pretty amazing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'd really recommend. I don't know.
Well,
And I,
here's a question.
I want to give a shout out just to some of the. I mean, it's already reading, but watching. Please go and watch some of the amazing activists that I know. David Rams doing incredible work. I know he's working on a really important project as well, which is I'm not sure when that's happening, but that's going to be really special. I can't really give any details of that, but yeah, he's doing some incredible work. So please go support David Rams, Mel and Steve as well. Obviously, Joey. Got to give a big shout out to Joey. Go follow my brother. He's going to really appreciate it. Colin's Tea Room, just the letter T. There are people, the activists around me, Calvin as well. Get Calvin Tasker. The activists around me really are kind of people who inspire me. Just seeing their passion and just kind of them always wanting to do more and all this kind of stuff. Even like, Mel messaged me being like, I want to go out and do more farm stuff and everything. Like, let's go out and organize some stuff. Just people it's just amazing to be around people that give a shit.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And like even like chatting with you, it's so nice to be, all the work you've done as well, which, respect for everything you've done. I mean, people need to give you credit as well, it's inspiring, just seeing people like all around the world just doing such amazing things. It's I mean, there's too many names to mention. I just want to list everybody.
Well, I'll throw it back at you, Chris, because your work has obviously inspired me a ton. And I actually, like I was really moved that time when I was reacting to some of your content and you were in the chat. Like that to me, I was like, that was when I was like, oh, okay, this YouTube channel I have, it may be small, but I love that it's attracting some of the people that I have looked up to for like a long time to be in the chat. Like, communicating with me, it was just like I was so honored by that. So yeah, thank you for all the work that you've done. And yeah, like some of these people that we've mentioned like are definitely hopefully future guests on my program too, like your brother, maybe Mel and Steve, of course.
Yeah, Cliff
Hopefully.
Grant. We need to give a shout out to
Yeah,
Cliff.
Cliff. Yeah, Cliff.
I love Cliff.
Such a nice guy. We were talking to him the other day, actually, just the other day with Cliff. And just such a lovely human being. Like every time I hear, like he sends me these voice texts, and every time I hear his voice, I'm just like, oh, he just has a way, like he's such a good guy. Yeah, and help me get Joey on here. That would make my day. If
Oh
I could
man,
get
I mean,
Joey.
I wish I mean, I'm friends with the guy, and I can barely get hold of him. Joey, if you watch this, like, answer your WhatsApps for God's sake.
Come on,
It
Joey.
takes me so long to get hold of him these days. But I know he's always there. I know it's all love and everything.
Yeah.
The thing is, I know with Joey, when he goes quiet, he's working on something.
Oh yeah, he's working.
He's in the trenches. He's doing stuff. He's not just like sat there ignoring me for no reason.
Yeah, I don't think I've even invited Joey because I know just from working with Wayne how busy he is. We've communicated through email a few times, but on behalf of like Wayne, like for stuff like that. But yeah, I just know he's super busy. But yeah, Joey, huge shout out. And anytime people try to take a slam on Joey for some work that they don't approve of or whatever, I'm just like, just look at the amount of work that he's doing. Like how much of that you don't like. I mean, come on.
I'm
He's
kind of fed up. I'm kind of fed up with that. I've heard so many
yeah,
people badmouth him, and they just don't know him. Like people don't
right.
realize that when I first started working with Joey, he was sleeping on a mattress in Plant Based News's office, like
Hmm.
literally in one room with a mini fridge. Like Joey's not exactly living in a mansion or
Right.
anything. Like he doesn't buy loads of stuff for himself or anything. He's so focused on the animals. Like people used to get annoyed with stuff like he would go to like a vigil and he might not be like that kind of friendly or but you want to take a photo with someone or something and they'll get shitty with
Mhm.
him. And Joey spoke to me about that once and he said what people kind of are failing to realize, I'm outside a slaughterhouse. Like this
Yeah.
isn't the place for selfies. I'm here to do work. I'm not here to do a
Yeah.
meet and greet. I'm here because I want to document the animals and
Yeah.
everything. I'm like, and that's such a fair thing to say. Like, it's a bad taste to be like, oh well, you wouldn't take a photo of me while there's pigs coming in to be gassed. Like,
Yeah.
figure the context, and he gets bad rap because of little things like that. And I think he gets treated by some people like just really, really unfairly.
Yeah.
They I don't know, like I'll always stand up for Joey. He knows I always
Yeah.
fight his corner.
James Aspie James Aspie told me the exact same thing with regards to like a slaughterhouse vigil he did in the state that I live in the United States. And when we were talking, he was mentioning, yeah, some people were saying like I wasn't as like, engaged with the people. And it's just like, remember like that someone like me, I guess less you at this point because you're a little more well known, but I can like slip in and out of vigils and I don't have to talk to anybody. But like someone like Joey shows up, everybody, I assume everybody kind of wants to hound around him and like talk to Joey and yeah, get the selfie and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just like it's probably constant. And I just yeah, yeah, people need to remember that these are also just human beings, flesh and blood human beings,
Yeah,
and they're not always going to be at their best either. Like even let's say even if Joey did act shitty sometime, like well, we've acted shitty all the time. So like just remember, like he
yeah.
can't be 100% of himself all the
He,
time.
he could have been in a factory farm the night before, for all you know. He could be, you don't know
Right.
what he's dealing with and everything. Like I've witnessed stuff with Joey and everything, and I know the trauma and everything you know you
Yeah.
bring into yourself by doing those things. Like you're not always going to be this happy person all the time. If you've just done that, you might snap, you might not be, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like as Joey was saying, he's not a celebrity. He's an activist.
Hmm.
He's not there for meet and greets and stuff unless it's organized as something like that. He's there to do a job and everything. And people should just remember that and think, yeah, let's let him get on with what he's good at. This is why Joey is who he is, because he's good at what he
Yeah.
does. He gets the message out, does an amazing job, puts all his work in. Let's allow him to do that. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And people need to be allowed to like, not be perfect also. It's just like that's just
yeah,
like so anyway, we love you, Joey, is
yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Love to Joey.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as I love anybody, I'm not and listen, I'm not saying that people aren't capable of I'm just not eh, I'm not saying Joey's infallible is what I'm saying. I realize like these are people people can make mistakes as well, but I'm just saying like
Sure.
anybody who pours that much of themselves into this movement, into the work for the animals, even if it's just trying, like I just have a huge amount of gratitude for people like that, which includes you, Chris, and that's why I've been so moved and honored to have you on.
Thank
And
you. Yeah.
yeah, is there anything like we've talked for a pretty long time? Is there anything that we didn't cover you think we should before we wrap it?
Um, no, I think we've covered most things, haven't we? We've kind of dived into the history, the film, stuff with my brother,
Mhm.
investigations. I don't know. I really don't know. That's anything
Yeah,
you can think of. Yeah, we've covered quite a lot,
yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably talk for like 24 hours if we
Oh god,
wanted
yeah, we
to,
can go to all the nitty
but
gritty of different
yeah,
things. And,
but nobody will stick around for that. But hey, if you guys stuck around through this 2 hour interview, like give us a like, give us a subscribe,
well, thank
sub
you for
to Chris
listening to me
Han.
for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
Like respect. So.
yeah. Go sub to Chris and I'll put all the links of like not just Chris but all the people he's mentioned, the films and everything. So do a deep dive because there's just so much to discover. And yeah, I was really moved by that video that you guys put together on Mel and Steve's channel with your brother, and it's really powerful. I hope that everybody will watch that too. But
Yeah, we've
thank
had
you
such
for
an
your
amazing
work.
reaction from
Yeah,
that.
it is. It
I think
is.
one of the reels has had over 100,000 views just alone, just one
Oh
of the
wow.
reels. So Yeah, I think, you know, it gave a rare insight kind of thing, you know, of a non-vegan going into something like that. We haven't really seen many videos of that
Yeah,
happening.
no.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's unique.
appreciate all
It's
the support.
unique. Yeah, and kudos to your brother for having the courage to go and do that, because it did take some courage, especially as a non-vegan. Like he had to go in there and feel like, oh wait, am I going to be judged for being non-vegan?
Hmm.
You know, and he just went through it and did it. So kudos to him. All right,
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much, man. Much love to you. And
No,
yeah, and then and you're always welcome on this channel. So anytime you want to come and promote something to my 200 subscribers, we can do that.
when the film's out, we'll deep dive.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just prepare yourself for a 10-hour.
Yeah, the 10-hour one, because we're going to
there'll
go
be a
through
lot to
each
cover.
band. Each band. All right, take care, Chris.
Awesome, thank you.